Chapter 408. What happened just now? It was not until Lin Ke was dragged out of the arena by Geezer that Lu Chang, the host in the live broadcast room, came back to his senses and asked Chen Sansheng, the guest commentator beside him. First, Peng Liyun, who was about to win the match, was strangely sluggish, as if he had become a puppet. This allowed Lin Ke, who was in a dead-end situation, to turn the tables and reverse the situation. Then Lin Ke, who was obviously much weaker than Peng Liyun, crazily suppressed Peng Liyun as if he had cheated. Boom, boom, boom. The waves of fire created a scene of a real explosion. However, this development did not last long. After a few moves, Lin Ke took the initiative to stop, and the referee anxiously announced Peng Liyun's victory. Just a single part of the story was already inconceivable and incomprehensible, let alone when they were combined. It's not that I don't have enough brains, it's just that this world is too amazing. Lu Chang's words brought Chen Sansheng back to his senses. He calmed himself down and said, "It should be Lin Ke's arcana." Awakened arcana? Lu Chang was slightly stunned. He had never seen a direct disciple of a large sect awaken their superpowers in an uncontrollable manner. Yes, look at this. Chen Sansheng pointed at the slow motion shown by the director in time. Peng Liyun didn't freeze there. He just slowed down his movements, as if he was in a quagmire. Chang, what do you think? The power of the earth, one of the characteristics of the combat sect. Lu Chang came to a realization. Lin Ke suddenly awakened his supernatural ability and temporarily restrained Peng Liyun. That was how he managed to escape death. After that, he tried to rely on the burst of power when his supernatural ability was awakened to defeat his opponent. However, Peng Liyun was no ordinary person. He managed to hold his ground in a wretched state. When the burst was over, Lin Ke, who had suffered a strong backlash, naturally couldn't hold on any longer. All of his previous questions had been answered. But he's a disciple of Shushan's study. Didn't his elders teach him how to awaken slowly? Lu Chang was confused. Most people would only lose control when they awaken their arcana. As a former martial artist, Chen Sansheng had collected a lot of information. When he heard that Lin Ke's father used to be a coach at Songqing University, he suddenly felt emotional. Lin Ke must be aware of the consequences of his actions. He also understands that the losses outweigh the gains. But for him, for a martial artist, there are some things that are duty-bound to do. Even if there are tens of thousands of people, he will still press on. Lu Chang was about to say something else when the broadcast switched back to the center of the venue, due to Lu Chang's arrival. Seeing that Peng Liyun's clothes were full of burn marks, his face was slightly pale, and his muscles were slightly trembling, he was stunned again and blurted out, "Peng Liyun is injured. This is getting interesting." Chen Sansheng raised his eyebrows and sighed. Lin Ke's ignition had really lit up the light of hope for Songqing University. It all depended on whether Lu Chang could grasp this opportunity and surpass the big demon king. Hearing the host and guest commentator's explanation, Yan Shaoling removed the hand that was covering her eyes. She was a little happy and felt a lump in her throat. She subconsciously turned her head and looked at Mu Jinyan, only to see her roommate sobbing and wiping her face with a tissue. Looking back, there were also many posts in the forum that were full of praises and exclamations. Lin Ke is really giving it his all. Wrote Unparalleled Dragon King. No way. He Xiaowei touched his thick beard and muttered to himself. Do I really have the supernatural power of the toxic healer? He refreshed his Weibo and saw several new comments. Kneel down seriously. I shouldn't have wavered. Old immortal, please accept me. How could he turn this around? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Covering ears. In the beginning, I only believed that fate was great. But in the end, I was powerless to see clearly that the strong were the toxic healers. In another place, in another room, all-knowing man in ganghood took a deep breath and told himself that even if Lu Chang was injured, he might not be able to defeat Peng Liyun. Even if he could, he would be at his limit and wouldn't be able to defeat Fang Zhirong. In the stands, Empress Dowager Ji Mingyu clenched her right hand and opened it again and again, murmuring, "This guy is really." She repeated the word really several times but still couldn't think of a suitable curse word. Our Ji family has the two bloodlines of willfulness and stubbornness. This is really something Lin Ke would do. Yan Kai heaved a long sigh. He had been influenced by what he saw and heard all year round. Naturally, he knew the price Lin Ke had to pay for what he did just now. He turned his head to look at his wife and released his palm. He patted Ji Mingyu's other shoulder and comforted her. Don't worry. With Coach Shi and Mom and Dad protecting him, there won't be any serious consequences. Who hasn't been reckless and impulsive when they were young? Ji Mingyu sighed and said, with this, his chances of becoming a physical invulnerability expert are reduced by at least half. If Lin Ke could follow the normal process, it would be easy for him to enter the high pin and become an inhuman before the age of 22. He would have enough time and potential to reach the physical invulnerability realm. But now it would take him about a year and a half to recover. At that time, due to the awakening of his supernatural ability and the improvement of his physical fitness, he would be able to reach the 6th pin level very quickly. But it wouldn't be so easy for him to reach the inhuman stage. Yan Kai opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but then he saw the guy who had abducted his little princess standing in front of Peng Liyun. The atmosphere suddenly became tense again. Even the audience who didn't have strong inclinations felt the suffocation of the final match. In the substitutes bench of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Shi suppressed the backfire in Lin Ke's body and stabilized his condition. He ordered Li Mao and Kai Zhongming to send him to the emergency room for follow-up treatment. Yen Zhika looked at her cousin whose pale skin was covered with frost. Her eyes were obviously red and her fists were clenched tightly. She wanted to take responsibility for herself. She turned her eyes back to the arena. Her eyes reflected Lu Cheng's tall and straight body. This time, I didn't have time to cheer for you, but my heart is with you. In the seats of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Fang Zhirong, Su Wanyan, and the others looked more dignified. They felt something called pressure. For the first time, they felt that the champion of this competition was not so safe. Whether it was good or bad, it all depended on the next round of battle. The long roar was still echoing. It seemed to have condensed into a sound column connecting the 9 heavens. It came from afar and shook people's hearts. Lu Cheng's fighting spirit was burning. His momentum was like a rainbow. He turned into a whistling north wind and rolled into the arena. He stood opposite Peng Liyun at a distance. His blood was surging and his emotions were surging. Hormones were secreted, stimulating his qi and blood to become stronger. His strength and speed seemed to have increased, as if he had been injected with stimulants. Normally, he would follow this momentum and fiercely attack to vent his emotions and completely defeat his opponent. However, Lu Cheng was very clear that Peng Liyun was not an ordinary person. He was the heavenly son of the age, and deserved the title of Big Devil. When facing such an opponent, even if he was injured, he could not take it down in one breath. If he was impatient and reckless, he would seize the opportunity and win in one fell swoop. Of course, he could not give up this feeling of burning, stirring, and this feeling of momentum soaring to the sky. He would lose a certain advantage. Therefore, he had to fight according to his master's words. Mind like fire, heart like ice. Aggression like fire, calm like ice. Well, in Peng Liyun's current state, he would not be able to take 3 internal explosions. While Lu Cheng was pondering, the referee had already raised his right hand. Peng Liyun had also refocused the light in his eyes. It was as if 2 bolts of lightning had leaped out of thin air, illuminating the surroundings and causing Lu Cheng's mind to tremble slightly. With a whoosh, the referee's palm fell and the voice came out. Begin! Crack! Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun moved at the same time. The former burst out his Dan force, his legs thickened and flew out with a momentum like a rainbow. The latter withdrew his qi and blood, lowered his waist and then released it, like a cloud floating forward, flash attack on his opponent. They both chose to attack at the beginning of the game. This battle had entered the white-hot stage as soon as it started. Both of them pounced at high speed. The distance of 8 or 9 meters disappeared in an instant. They charged at each other, and had no room to adjust. They could only lean sideways, bulge their muscles and stick to each other. Bang! It was like 2 cars collided in the middle of the arena. The sound was so loud that the air billowed. Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun's bodies seemed to be frozen. The trembling of their muscles and the bouncing of their large tendons were subtle but clear. After a moment, they both stepped back and cracked the bluestone with a stomp. Lu Cheng just steadied himself and bent his body forward, his two arms hanging naturally. His wrists hooked and shook, shooting out a white cold light that moved close to the ground and a red fireball that penetrated the airflow. Burning ice and flame. With such a short distance and such a tight attack, Peng Liyun didn't even have time to use the astral steps. It seemed that he had no other choice but to take it head-on. At this moment, the light in his eyes grew brighter. His palms glowed silvery white and suddenly clapped in front of him. Boom. This clap was no longer a crisp and short paw. It was like a thunderclap. The sound wave and airflow swept out, instantly destroying the unstable crystal cold light and violent fireball. Lu Cheng's body and mind were shaken, and he was temporarily frightened by the scene of blooming fireworks. B. Peng Liyun opened his palms and pulled out a thin silvery white electric light like a thin blade. Pa! In a flash, the electric light had already cut, in front of Lu Cheng. If he hadn't been affected by the sudden thunder, Lu Cheng would have noticed when Peng Liyun's palms were about to separate. He would have dodged and defended. However, he was half a beat too late. Once the electric light came out, no human could stop it. With a sizzling sound, Lu Cheng's hair stood on end. The clothes on his chest were burnt, revealing his charcoal black skin. Thunder from a clear sky, cloudless thunder saber. In the live broadcast room, Chun Sanxing said in astonishment. He didn't expect that the injured Peng Liyun could seize the initiative so quickly and create a chance for victory. This was the killing move of the Thunder Sect's unique physical invulnerability skill. Of course, Peng Liyun hadn't mastered it, not even simplified it. He had simply imitated its characteristics and created a martial art that was similar to it. While Chun Sanxing was speaking, Peng Liyun's body naturally and smoothly bounced back to Lu Cheng's front. In his mind, he visualized the scene where the green and silver lightning bombarded the ground and ignited a noisy golden fire. As this scene appeared, he seemed to have been hit by the lightning in his qi and blood hub, lower dantian, and buttocks. His body erupted with power beyond what he had ever had before. His arm muscles bulged, and his fist was wrapped in red flames. He punched at Lu Cheng at a burning speed. The 15th move of the Thunder Sect, simplified physical invulnerability, Fiery Thunderbolt. The effect of this move was an explosive increase in strength accompanied by the burning of flames. Peng Liyun didn't master the essence of this move until it began to transform with the help of the supernatural ability. At this time, Lu Cheng had just recovered from the numbness. He had imagined that Peng Liyun would be difficult to deal with, and that he would still have the strength to defeat him, even though he was injured. However, he didn't expect that Peng Liyun would be so powerful and terrifying that he would put himself in danger at the beginning of the fight. His heart was like an ice mirror, reflecting the details. An idea flashed through his mind. He didn't hurry to perform the force concentration, but instead concentrated the cold wave in his body on his right arm. Bam! His shoulder exploded with strength, and he raised his arm to block the fiery thunderbolt. Puff! As soon as Peng Liyun's fist hit Lu Cheng's upper arm, he felt Lu Cheng sinking down and spitting out coldness. Then his qi, blood, force, and spirit all contracted and gathered in the dantian of his lower abdomen. Even his own majestic strength was absorbed, as if he had hit the void. The flames that were supposed to spread inwards were restrained there, and extinguished by the ice crystal mist that was released in advance. Lu Cheng was imitating En Chaoyang's wisdom. Relying on the ice mirror to accurately grasp the timing of the opponent's move, he blocked the fiery thunderbolt with the force concentration. Of course, the two situations were different. The moves they were facing were different, so the order of the details was also different. And Chaoyang was afraid that his mind would be frozen by severe warning. Hence, he had to retract his spirit at the right time to avoid this. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, was worried that the burning sensation would invade his body and cause internal injuries. Hence, he had to spurt out frost in advance to counteract it. At this moment, all the feelings were still in his dantian. The balance was broken, and the turbulent waves rushed to his left arm. Lu Cheng visualized the thundercloud tremor in time. He shook his shoulder, tightened his muscles, and punched his left fist from top to bottom towards Peng Liyun. The first move of the Thunder Roar Zen. Before Peng Liyun's fiery thunderbolt was completed, he already knew that it was not good. He had already retracted his qi and blood, and followed up with an explosion. He swung his right arm backward and drew an arc upward. Bam! As soon as his arm came into contact with Lu Cheng's fist, he felt a force that was much stronger than his own and a shockwave that expanded rapidly. His body jumped involuntarily, and his muscles and tendons were immediately shaken. This was compounded with the internal injuries of the meteor burst. Crack! The force went straight up and down. Peng Liyun's feet sank into the ground, and he couldn't take a step back to dissipate the force. Lu Cheng borrowed the strength of his opponent to stop Peng Liyun in one move. He immediately took the time to adjust his muscles, and visualized a heavy and scorching red sun. The flames gathered and condensed into a ball that was about to explode. A deity with a human head and a beast body stepped out of the void and suppressed everything. Fire sect, simplified physical invulnerability, internal explosion. Lu Cheng was about to raise his right arm and deliver a critical blow when he felt a sharp pain in the spot where he blocked Peng Liyun's fiery thunderbolt. The pain went straight to his brain. It was indeed too risky to resolve a simplified physical invulnerability with force concentration. Moreover, fiery thunderbolt was known for its explosive force. Although I managed to dissipate and borrow part of the force, the remaining force still hurt my muscles, tendons, and bones, which affected my force. He suddenly realized. He even suspected that his right arm was slightly fractured. Damn it, I can't let go of this opportunity. Lu Cheng thought of his brother-in-law's pure smile and sincere request, and Ku's expectation and sadness. He clenched his teeth and endured the pain. He swung his right arm and punched Peng Liyun's lower abdomen. Peng Liyun knew what was going to happen as soon as his feet sank into the bluestone. His eyes were unwavering. He immediately withdrew his force to heal his injury and completed double explosion. Bam! He opened his left hand and pressed down rapidly, half pushing and half pushing. Boom! It was as if there was a ticking time bomb in his body that exploded. It shook his internal organs and churned his qi, blood, and body fluids. The previous injury reappeared and became more serious. Peng Liyun took a deep breath and made the third force concentration in a row. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, lost his center of gravity due to the explosion of his Dan force and fell backward. He took 2 steps forward and retracted his qi and blood to stabilize his body. He used the rebound force from the soles of his feet to pounce forward. Bam! He swung his fist fiercely to the side and hit his opponent's temple. Peng Liyun remained calm and unhurried. He followed the momentum of the Dan force and raised his shoulder and arm to block in time. Bam! Lu Cheng's joints cracked and his tendons stretched. His 5 fingers shot out and poked at his opponent's head. That wasn't the end of it. Each of his fingers shot out a faint glittering light. It was as beautiful as a dream, like an arrow or a needle. The 21st move of the ice sect, Aurora. Peng Liyun's scalp went numb in an instant. He felt a stinging pain in his temple and quickly moved to the side. He used the tortoise withdraws its head to dodge the deadly Aurora by a hair's breadth. Lu Cheng wouldn't let this go. He visualized the giant crimson sun and was about to use his left fist to make another internal explosion. At this moment, a turbine appeared in Peng Liyun's body and spun rapidly. His body was surrounded by faint electric sparks. A strong repulsive force hit him. Lu Cheng, who was about to use the simplified physical invulnerability move, was pushed back a meter. Peng Liyun immediately rushed forward. The visualization in his mind kept changing until it was fixed on a green jade talisman, suspended in the void. The words on it were complicated and looked like they were made of lightning. Bzzz, bzz, bzz. Yin and yang collided and a silver light flashed. Bam! Peng Liyun raised his arms high and his body expanded. He turned into a deity that punished on behalf of the heavens. He slammed his fist down hard. The simplified physical invulnerability move of the Thunder Sect, Thunder Seal. Lu Cheng dispersed his force and quickly used the Dan concentration. He clenched his fist and answered firmly. Bam! His hair stood on end again. There seemed to be smoke coming out of it. His body was completely paralyzed and he couldn't even stand straight. Peng Liyun, on the other hand, was pushed back 2 steps by the explosive force of the Dan stage. These 2 steps gave Lu Cheng a chance to catch his breath. He used force concentration to get rid of the influence. Peng Liyun also made a series of explosions. He swung his arms and attacked crazily like lightning. Bam, bam, bam. This was like another version of the machine punch. It was slower and more powerful. It was a perfect combination with the explosive force of the dance stage. Lu Qing didn't have time to use the force. He could only brace himself and use the ice mirror to block the attacks. Bam, bam, bam. This match. Chen Sanqing finally had the time to comment. It's a little tragic. Yes, it wasn't beautiful, it wasn't wonderful, it was tragic. Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun were always able to create opportunities when their opponent was connecting moves. Therefore, the situation of a simplified physical invulnerability against a simplified physical invulnerability had never happened. They were both fighting with the explosive force of the dance stage. It was quite tragic. This also showed that they were evenly matched and in a stalemate. Maybe this is the only way to defeat the Demon King Peng Liyun. Lu Chang agreed. Bam, 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 bam. After making 9 consecutive explosions, Peng Liyun took the initiative to change. He grasped the pulse of the rhythm and suddenly stopped his attacks. He took a deep breath. Bam, 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 bam. Another turbine was running crazily in his body. A strange suction force appeared under the silvery white electric light. Lu Cheng, who was attacking his opponent with tremor punch, was caught off guard and fell forward. In terms of fighting skills, Peng Liyun, who had been practicing for many years, was definitely better than him. Opportunity. Peng Liyun didn't use the simplified physical invulnerability. He didn't use the Dan concentration or the simplified physical invulnerability. He straightened his right arm, turned it into a whip, and lashed at his opponent's neck. The fist in front of Lu Cheng's eyes was getting bigger and bigger. It seemed that Lu Cheng only had 2 choices. He could either give up his stance and roll on the ground to avoid the attack, or he could stabilize his body to avoid the attack. Of course, Peng Liyun's follow-up attack would be a series of attacks. Neither of these options could turn the situation around. Lu Cheng's eyes remained unchanged. He stabilized his center of gravity and moved an inch to the right, giving his shoulder to Peng Liyun. It's over. Chen Sanqing murmured. Crack. Peng Liyun's whip cracked. However, it wasn't Lu Cheng's bones that were broken. It was a layer of ice crystals that had formed at some point. The 15th move of the Ice Sect, Ice Armor. This move was the application of supernatural ability. Lu Cheng mastered it very quickly. He had mastered it in a few days in March. Although it couldn't withstand the simplified physical invulnerability and the explosion of the dance stage, it was still useful for ordinary moves. In a battle between mighty ones, one wrong move would result in a counterattack. Without thinking, Peng Liyun retracted his chi and blood to guard against the killer move. Lu Cheng wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He had been visualizing the giant red sun and fire god Zhurong when he moved his body to the right. At this moment, he stretched his body and endured the pain in his right arm. He guided the compressed fireball into his fist and punched it out. The simplified physical invulnerability of the fire sect, internal explosion. The second punch. Boom. Although Peng Liyun punched down in time and forced his enemy to retreat with the explosion of the dance stage, his body was attacked again. It was as if a sea of fire had ignited inside his body, making him extremely uncomfortable and almost vomiting blood. However, his willpower was just as strong. With a return hug, he barely managed to suppress his wounds and counterattacked with a flash strike. Lu Cheng defended himself with the explosion of the dance stage and didn't move at all. He planned to use the Thunder Roar Zen to completely destroy his enemy's injury, just like how he dealt with Ren Li. However, in the previous collisions, Peng Liyun had sensed that Lu Cheng's right arm was injured and his moves were flawed. He adjusted his footwork and kept attacking his right side, forcing Lu Cheng to block with his right fist. The pain in his bones and fascia was getting more and more obvious. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of the thunder roars then echoed. Peng Liyun kept withdrawing and spurting his Dan force, and withstood the attack with 10 consecutive explosions. Lu Cheng's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and it was getting more and more difficult for him to lift his right arm. He clenched his teeth and stimulated himself with the pain. In the next round of attacks from his enemy, he suddenly stretched out his right hand and opened his 5 fingers. He didn't block but grabbed in the opposite direction. It's time. Crack. Lu Qing heard the sound of bones cracking. He also grabbed Peng Liyun's fist. The veins on the back of his hand and fingers were bulging, as if they were supported by dragons. However, he didn't use his strength. He just directly poured the frost current in his body into Peng Liyun. All of a sudden, Peng Liyun was stiff, but he quickly recovered. He didn't fight back with the supernatural ability of thunder and lightning, but just withdrew his qi and blood. Once the Dan force was formed, it immediately exploded and pushed his body back to avoid the following attacks from Lu Qing. He wouldn't be able to withstand the third internal explosion. However, Lu Qing didn't directly use the simplified physical invulnerability as he expected. Instead, he followed with force concentration to overcome the pain in his injury. His legs thickened and cracked the ground. His body soared into the air and chased after his opponent. Then he quickly raised his hands and made a gesture. He visualized the ancient characters in his mind and said in a low voice, "Army." Peng Liyun, who had just made a counterattack, suddenly froze. His body seemed to have reached its limit, and there were knives and swords on his neck. Under normal circumstances, he could control his panic in time and visualize Thunder God to suppress the evil and counterattack. But now, his spirit was shaken and he temporarily lost his composure because of the stacked internal injuries. Now is the time. Lu Qing was full of fighting spirit. He visualized the heavy red sun again, and condensed the violent flames. In the void, Zhu Rong stepped out on the fire dragon and suppressed everything that was about to explode. Bam! Lu Qing stared at Peng Liyun, and his body expanded. He shook his left arm and punched his opponent between the chest and abdomen. The third blow of internal explosion. Peng Liyun barely recovered. He raised his arms in front of his body. Boom! His vision was completely red, which was the result of his capillaries bursting. His mind was buzzing nonstop, and he had lost all sense of his body and the outside world. Lu Qing took a step forward and endured the pain. He stopped his right fist at Peng Liyun's throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Lu Qing wins the second round." Lu Qing won the second round. Hearing this, Lu Qing finally relaxed. He took a deep breath and felt that this was the toughest battle of his life. Peng Liyun calmed down a little. When he was about to speak, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. The great demon king had fallen. Chapter 409. Bam! Bam! Along with Peng Liyun's blood, for teeth as white as jade fell to the ground. They rolled a few times to the side, but before they came to a stop, they were lifted up by the big devil's body that had fallen to the ground. All this was like the slow motion at the end of a movie, reflected in Lu Qing's eyes frame by frame, making him feel like he was in a dream. He had truly defeated the Great Demon King, even if it was an injured Great Demon King. Recalling the whole process, every minute and every second was full of danger. If Lin Ke hadn't injured Peng Liyun, he might have been defeated. At most, he would have caused some trouble for Peng Liyun. As for now, this was the first time Peng Liyun had fallen to the ground since they started fighting in the arena. In the previous 3 or 4 years, he had lost a few rounds of tag team battles, but he had always maintained a good image. He had never been so embarrassed before. Phew! Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He was glad that he hadn't been overwhelmed by the tough battle just now, but also excited that he had finally defeated the seemingly invincible big devil. Although Peng Liyun had been injured in advance, he had begun to transform. The two cancelled each other out, and Lu Qing had won with a clear conscience. Not to mention, this was the result of his brother-in-law's desperate efforts. At this moment, Lu Qing's emotions were surging. He couldn't wait to roar again to express his joy and excitement, but he didn't do so. Instead, he integrated the venting into his own aura. He turned his body sideways and suddenly looked at the freckled Fang Zhirong in the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club seating area. Fang Zhirong felt that Lu Qing's eyes were shining brightly, making him feel like he was looking at the scorching sun at noon. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes. At the same time, he heard an illusory whistling sound echoing in his ears, as if a hurricane was about to blow. His body trembling slightly, Feng Zhirong came to a clear realization in an instant. After the battle just now, Lu Cheng's aura was soaring to the sky. If he had consumed too much energy or suffered heavy injuries, then no matter how strong his momentum was, it would only be a decoration and wouldn't affect the overall situation. But now, it was obvious that the outcome had been decided before they reached their limits. With Lu Cheng's abnormal stamina, it wasn't impossible for him to fight another fierce battle. Under such circumstances, momentum was very important. Feng Zhirong took a deep breath to calm his excitement and physical reaction. He suddenly stood up and walked to the stone steps without looking at anyone. This is the first time I've seen Peng Liyun in such a sorry state. The host Lu Chang sighed. That's right. The fight was too intense. The guest commentator, Chen Sansheng, was scribbling on a piece of paper with a pen in his hand. I didn't expect Peng Liyun to be so difficult to deal with when he was injured, nor did I expect Lu Qing to hold on until the dawn appeared. His willpower and timing are indeed extraordinary. Of course, I can also see that compared to Peng Liyun, who has been practicing martial arts for many years, Lu Cheng's foundation is still shallow. This doesn't refer to the martial arts moves he has learned, but to the proper application of them and the change of rhythm in a fierce battle. That's right. Otherwise it wouldn't be so tragic. Lu Chang nodded and smiled. However, Lu Qing is a very talented martial artist. His performance on the spot is always surprising. After going through such a battle of the highest level below the inhuman stage, I believe he will soon be able to solidify his foundation. Hearing this, Chen Sanqing nodded and sighed. That's why Peng Liyun lost so miserably. Lin Kei's determination and courage, and Lu Cheng's willpower and strength. The combination of the two will definitely create a miracle. He didn't say it clearly, but his meaning was expressed. Well, Peng Liyun is being helped out of the arena. Sansheng, how badly do you think he is injured? Can you make a simple prediction of the battle between Lu Qing and Feng Zhirong? Lu Chang asked quickly. Chen Sansheng thought for a while and said, Peng Liyun should have been hit by 3 internal explosions and a dozen tremor punches. His body is also injured by Lin Kei's explosion. If it were before, even if he didn't die, he would have been seriously injured and would have to lie in bed for at least a few months. Of course, if it were before, he wouldn't have been defeated by the 3rd internal explosion, so the battle would have ended long ago and his injuries wouldn't be so serious. But now he has begun to transform and his body's ability to bear more energy has increased. Lu Qing consumes a lot of energy, but he is known as a freak in this aspect, so he can't be judged by common sense. I think he should still have the strength to fight with a normal 7th pin fighter. The problem is, Chang, have you noticed that Lu Cheng's right arm is obviously injured? And the injury has worsened a lot in the last 2 or 3 blows. It can be considered to be temporarily disabled. At most, he can barely move it. Lu Chang nodded and said, I noticed that Peng Liyun was aiming at this point. Unfortunately, he didn't last long. Lu Qing is holding back one of his arms. So here comes Feng Zhirong's chance. In the 3rd round, let's split it 6-4. He gets 6 and Lu Qing gets 4. Chen Sanqing couldn't help but add. And if Lu Qing can beat Feng Zhirong, Songqing University will definitely win the championship. As long as he can move in the last round. Even if he can't make the explosion of Dan's stage, he can still beat Su Wanyan. No way. Even if Su Wanyan doesn't use the Corvine mouth, he is still a professional 9th pin fighter. Lu Chang retorted in disbelief. Chen Sanqing laughed and said, It depends on who he is fighting. Without the Corvine mouth, Lu Qing can find an opportunity to use the army formula. I don't believe Su Wanyan can be immune to it. The gap between their ranks is too big, Lu Qing has too many tricks up his sleeve, and Su Wanyan's strength is restrained. These are all objective facts. Su Wanyan is doomed to have a hard time facing Lu Qing, unless Lu Cheng's right arm is injured again, and he can't even make the hand gesture. No, even if that's the case, with his momentum of defeating the Big Devil after 2 consecutive victories, Su Wanyan will be scared to death. So Su Wanyan is really miserable. But if Lu Qing is close to his limit, will his supernatural ability of rebounding curse be weakened? Lu Chang asked doubtfully. The supernatural ability came from the mutation of the root pulp, from the subtle structure of the body, and was closely related to the state of the body. It's possible. But does Su Wanyan dare to take the risk? Chun Sanqing murmured. Hearing the director's prompt, he sat up straight and said, no matter what, as long as Lu Qing can hold on until Su Wanyan comes on the stage, he will have a good chance of winning. To a large extent, the champion of this competition will be decided by the next round. The game is about to start. Let's wait and see. Will Lu Qing continue to work hard and complete the 1-2 victory? Or will Fang Zhirong seize the opportunity of Lu Qing's injury to stabilize the situation and help Shanbei win the championship for the third time in a row? It's really not easy. In Lu Qing's fan forum, Wonton Seller appeared and expressed her feelings. In the previous battle, she had sweated profusely. Her heart had been raised and lowered and raised again. Unparalleled Dragon King replied in a funny way. Why else would he be called the Big Devil? I thought Lu Qing would lose just now. Wow, I almost spilled my cup, Brahmin said. It's really not easy for our idol. Defeat the Big Devil and marry the Flying Sky Cup. Don't get too excited. He hasn't won yet. Lu Qing's right arm is useless now. It's still not certain if he can defeat Fang Zhirong. Unparalleled Dragon King poured cold water on them. God is more fond of tragedies. Don't you think it's more impressive that a hot-blooded teenager who fought to his last breath, but fell at the last step? I'm more impressed that you became a eunuch. Eternal Nightfall, Yen Xiaoling said. She was nervous again, and felt that she couldn't breathe properly. They had fought so hard to this point. Don't fall at the door of success. The girls forgot to show off on Weibo and started to pray and make wishes silently. Okamoto's fan and others started to flood the forum with the same 2 words. Breakthrough. 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 Holy **T. The Great Demon King was healed to death by you. Such replies appeared under He Xiaowei's Weibo. They lined up neatly. Am I really that strong? He Xiaowei touched his thick beard again, and clicked on the section where he changed his nickname. He hesitated and decided not to believe it, so he posted again. I don't believe that Lu Qing can defeat Fang Zhirong with only one arm. Shanbei can still win the championship in the end. As soon as this post was refreshed, the replies increased rapidly. Damn, you won't give up until you kill Shanbei. I won't help the old lady, I'll give it to you. Be careful that Shanbei will hire someone to destroy your arm. What kind of deep hatred is this? Tell me, did Lu Qing give you a good time? All-knowing man in ganghood also saw this post and felt like he was hit by a stick. He wished he could become a moderator and ban this toxic healer. When Peng Liyun lost the match, his heart skipped a beat, and he almost fell down with him. It was not easy for him to calm down with the excuse of Lu Qing's arm is injured and Fang Zhirong is in his prime. But now he saw such a thing. When it rains, it pours. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, seeing Lu Qing's right arm move slow, Yanzhika couldn't hide her heartache and bit her lip. Not only was Lu Qing injured, but he also had to fight again in this injured state. Suddenly, she recalled Lu Qing's previous injury. She recalled how he showed off that he could pick up food with his left hand. She recalled his dazed expression when he made a fool of himself. She recalled how she had fed him shyly. She recalled all the bits and pieces related to him. Inexplicably, Yanzhika felt sweet. She couldn't help but smile, and her nervousness and uneasiness faded a little. No. I have to be serious and solemn at this time. How can I smile? She quickly put on a serious face, put her hands together and covered her mouth, and prayed seriously. At this time, Lu Qing also thought of this past. If he wanted to enjoy this kind of sweetness in the next stage of recovery, he couldn't leave with regrets. Well, to reduce the effect of paralysis, without the Jindan, I still have the strength of 4 or 5 explosions. With the Jindan, I can do 7 or 8 explosions. I'm better than Fang Zhirong in this aspect. Since there's a chance to win, I'll seize it. Lu Qing gathered his thoughts and raised his head to look at Fang Zhirong, who was standing opposite him. He heard the cheers of the audience, which had finally recovered from their shock. At this time, the referee raised his right hand. The battle to determine the champion was about to start. The referee waved his arm. Start. Chapter 410. Begin. The old and deep voice echoed in every corner of the martial arts arena. All the spectators stopped cheering and shouting, and focused on the arena. The champion of this year's National University Martial Arts Competition would be decided. Bernhard, who was helping Peng Leyun to the emergency room with Mao Qingjun, was stunned for a moment. He couldn't help but look back. At this moment, he suddenly heard a sizzling sound. His body was penetrated by a silvery current, and his hair stood on end. The feeling of numbness disappeared in a flash. Bernhard turned his head and looked at Peng Leyun innocently. On the other side, Mao Qingjuan's muscles were also trembling. Apparently, he was also shocked by the current. Peng Leyun coughed and said, "I'm sorry. My emotions are fluctuating." His internal injuries were already serious. Now that his emotions were fluctuating, it was inevitable that his supernatural ability of thunder and lightning would be temporarily out of control. "It's okay. We are also worried about the competition." Mao Qingjun understood Peng Leyun's feelings when he heard the word begin. Bernhard listened to their conversation, but there was only one thought echoing in his mind. "I'm really struck by lightning. Begin." Before the referee's voice died away, Lu Cheng had already raised his hands and made a gesture in front of his lower abdomen. Then he outlined the ancient words in his mind. His abdomen wriggled and he opened his throat and said in a low voice, "Okay." The black-edged white figure flashed and broke through the airflow barrier with a bang. He pounced on Fang Zhirong in a teleportation posture. Fang Zhirong had expected this. He knew that Lu Cheng, with his overwhelming momentum, would attack first at the start of the match to take advantage of his advantage and suppress his spirit. Therefore he arched his back and bent down. Like a wolf or a snake, he moved to the side in time to avoid the attack and started a guerrilla fight. His body movements were unpredictable. His bent body covered the light and created a black shadow on the ground. The shadow twisted and wriggled with his strange movements. It was normal, but it made the onlooker's scalp tingle. The dark sex kung fu was naturally frightening. Lu Qing transformed into the north wind and chased after him. His footwork had the characteristics of both speed and agility. Little by little, he shortened the distance between them. Because he improved too quickly, he needed to master too many new things. His footwork was only at the initial level, not to mention Run Li's level. Not enough time to settle down. A few minutes later, Fang Zhirong, who felt that Lu Cheng was already exhausted, suddenly turned around and launched a counterattack, attacking the right side of Lu Cheng's arm where his arm was injured. Pa! He tightened his thighs and lifted his knee. His right foot was not high from the ground, so he directly stepped on Lu Cheng's foot. At the same time his shoulder exploded with strength. His left arm shook out and his fist rushed up. Along with the momentum of the stomp, he smashed his opponent's right arm. Stomp on the ground and beat on the top, stab in the back. Fang Zhirong was taking advantage of the fact that Lu Cheng's right arm was injured and could not move freely. Furthermore, he knew that Lu Cheng could form an ice armor for defense, so he was prepared to follow up with a follow-up attack. After breaking the crystal with one punch, he immediately flicked his 5 fingers and secretly attacked Lu Cheng's heart. This move was called Green Bamboo Snake's Mouth, Wasp's Tail Needle. However, just as his right foot was about to step out, Lu Cheng seemed to have telepathy. He straightened his back and turned to the right, just in time to avoid the stomp and collapse. With the success of the ice mirror, Fang Zhirong's attempt had nowhere to hide within a radius of a few centimeters. Without it, Lu Cheng would not have been able to withstand Peng Leyun's chain thunder strikes. Dodging wasn't the end. His hands were already forming a seal, and ancient words had already appeared in his mind. Lu Cheng's previous pounce was a deliberate gesture. He was waiting for Fang Zhirong's counterattack after his momentum was exhausted. He was waiting for the ice mirror to accurately dodge and launch a sound attack in time. Not good. Seeing Lu Cheng's posture, Fang Zhirong's heart skipped a beat. He no longer had time to use the Green Bamboo Snake's Mouth, Wasp's Tail Needle transformation, and quickly visualized. A dark light flashed in his eyes. The green light was frightening, as though he had transformed into a poisonous king snake with a swollen neck and extended tongue. The dark sect's secret technique of the spirit and aura, nightmare. Army, the mysterious ancient voice reverberated. The murderous aura of a battle-hardened soldier invaded Fang Zhirong's heart, making him tremble. His courage dissipated, and his body became sluggish. Lu Cheng's willpower was strong, and he was no stranger to the secret techniques of the dark sect. After a short period of trembling, he calmed down a little and visualized the forwarding formula. He didn't try to completely restore the sound, but only used it to suppress it. Seizing the fleeting opportunity, he slid forward and used his left fist as a punch to his chest. The stinging pain jolted Fang Zhirong awake. He didn't have time to think about anything else. He forced himself to perform a force concentration, and with the contraction of his qi, blood, force, and spirit, he curled his body into a squatting meatball on the ground, narrowly avoiding Lu Cheng's mountain-splitting hammer. A squat followed by a spring. Fang Zhirong's Dan force erupted and shot out like a cannonball, fiercely crashing into Lu Cheng's waist. However, just as his fist missed, Lu Cheng had already skillfully redirected his qi and blood to his lower abdomen. Bam! His muscles swelled, and his right leg tightened into a whip. With a snap, he lashed out at Fang Zhirong's raised arm. Bam! With a muffled sound, Fang Zhirong, who had no place to exert his strength in midair, was sent flying like a football. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and made another burst. He pushed off with his feet and swept across the ground with a crack, chasing after his opponent like a bomber. Fang Zhirong had just steadied himself when he saw his opponent closing in on him. He retracted his qi and blood. The muscles on his left arm swelled, and his fist shot out like lightning. Snow collapsed, triple explosion. Fang Zhirong was at a disadvantage everywhere. He felt that his opponent had seen through every move in advance. He didn't dare to be careless and quickly visualized, making the turbines in his body start to spin crazily and pressurize each other. Bam! Every muscle in his body was filled with blood, and his body became taller. His right fist rushed forward with the force of 1,000 kilograms. Magnet sect, rotation of two poles, magnetic rotation. Bam! The air billowed, and their fists showed blue and black veins. Their muscles swelled again in an instant. After a moment, Lu Cheng's body trembled as he integrated the 24 blizzard strikes into force concentration. Once again he retracted his qi, blood, spirit, and other senses. Faced with such a situation, Fang Zhirong had no choice but to follow suit and make an explosion of Dan force to avoid being swallowed by the brutal blizzard. Bam! Lu Cheng's right leg muscles swelled and his instep tightened. Quadruple explosion. Bam! Fang Zhirong was forced to counterattack with a whip kick. Bam! Lu Cheng's legs made a muffled sound. Relying on his current strength, he stepped on the ground with his toes turned sideways and made another burst, fiercely crashing into his opponent. His attack was so terrifying that it seemed to be suppressing Fang Zhirong to the point of collapse. Fang Zhirong had to counterattack with double explosion. His body swelled, his feet pushed inward, and his body leaned forward. Bam! The sound of the collision was deep and loud. Fang Zhirong swayed back and took a step back. His scalp went numb, and he quickly retracted his qi and blood. While stabilizing his body, he kept the possibility of defense. Lu Cheng was like a never-ending blizzard. He retracted his qi and blood and immediately exploded it. With the quintuple explosion, he rushed forward with his right leg and kicked his knee. Bam! Feet to feet, the two pairs of martial arts shoes turned into butterflies fluttering in the air. At this point, Fang Zhirong knew that he couldn't continue like this. He used poison to train his strength, and his physical strength was weaker than his peers. Although he was known as a weak seventh pin fighter, he could only complete quintuple explosion. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, seemed to be able to make 6, 7, or 8 consecutive explosions. If they were to compete, he would be in a hopeless situation. Unknowingly, he was suppressed by Lu Cheng's momentum, and his spirit was affected. Fight! Fang Zhirong gritted his teeth and returned to the tiptoe. He made the first force concentration for the 4th time in a row. Following that, he stretched out his left palm and opened his 5 fingers. The veins on his arm bulged as he grabbed Lu Cheng's right arm. Moreover, each of his fingers glowed with a faint inky light, making people feel dizzy, as if they had smelled something fishy. Dark sect, dark poison force. Normally speaking, The combination of force and dance stage explosion was a big move that could only be completed after reaching the inhuman stage. However, Fang Zhirong's poison was stored in his body and his fingers. As long as he wasn't afraid of the backlash, he could barely use it together with dance stage explosion. At the critical moment, he used a killer move that would kill 1,000 of the enemy but hurt 500 of the self in order to turn the situation around. Bam! Just as Fang Zhirong's left palm struck out, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. The rhythm of Lu Cheng's brutal blizzard had slowed down for a moment. It was because of this delay that Lu Cheng didn't make another consecutive explosion. Instead, he raised his hands again and formed a seal. Through the reaction of the ice mirror, he had predicted where Fang Zhirong's desperate move was going to be. He planned to make a seemingly risky response. Crack! Fang Zhirong was shocked. His fingers had already broken through the layer of ice covering Lu Cheng's right arm. He tore his sleeve and directly injected the dark poison force into Lu Cheng's body. Lu Cheng's body was weak, and his mind was exhausted. However, at the same time, he said in a low voice with a solemn expression, "Army!" The chi of bloody devilish blood invaded his mind. Fang Zhirong instantly lost his mind and trembled as if he was surrounded. Once the dark poison force entered, Lu Cheng's internal injuries caused by the thunderbolt were triggered. His body and mind were rapidly weakening, and the number of dance stage outbursts was reduced. He forced himself to make one last force concentration. He reduced the influence in all aspects and turned them into Dan force that gushed into his left arm. Bam! In such a short distance, his fist was as fast as lightning. Before Fang Zhirong could recover a little, his fist hovered above his throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Lu Cheng wins the third round." In this round, although Lu Cheng had fought fiercely and was almost at his limit, and the injury on his right arm had worsened, with the help of the ice mirror and the change of rhythm that he had stolen from Peng Liyun, the entire battle was under his control. He didn't give Fang Zhirong any room to perform. His newly learned moves of the Plague Sect, Dark Sect, and Magnet Sect were all useless. This was the so-called suppression of a higher realm. His body and mind were at ease, and his fighting spirit was soaring. Lu Cheng couldn't hold it in anymore, and let out another long roar, as if in response to the previous roar. "Yes, I did it." In the long roar, he turned his head and looked at the seats of the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club. He was looking at Su Wanyan. When Su Wanyan met Lu Cheng's eyes, he inexplicably shivered, just like every time he urinated. Next. Chapter 411. Round 4. Lu Cheng wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. When the referee announced the first word, Li Mao, Sun Jian, and the others rushed to the arena excitedly, shouting "Yaya" without any scruples. If Lu Cheng had defeated Peng Liyun or Fang Zhirong in the last round, most of them would not have reacted so quickly. They would not have believed it, and would have been too surprised to believe it. However, after going through 2 tough battles, and their opponent was Su Wanyan, whose supernatural ability was completely restrained by Lu Cheng, they were already full of expectations. They were waiting for the moment when the referee announced the result. Champion! Champion! In the cheers of the audience, Yan Zhika, who was the strongest among the substitutes, rushed to the arena like a nimble deer and hugged Lu Cheng. At this moment, she could no longer suppress her surging emotions. In front of the audience and the fans watching the match, she openly showed her affection. "Who cares? Anyway, my dad knows it." During this process, she was so excited that she forgot herself and carefully avoided touching her boyfriend's injured right arm. Compared to his companions, who were mentally prepared, Lu Cheng was more absent-minded. He had reached his limit in all aspects, so he was quite confident that he could defeat Su Wanyan. Although he was confident, he was not certain. The worst-case scenario was to create a sure-win condition for Little Fairy to enter the arena. Suddenly winning was like a dream. It wasn't until a soft and hot body with a familiar and charming fragrance fell into his arms that he woke up from his dream. Rolling with joy, he asked the girl with an uncertain tone, "What's wrong with you? Are we the champion?" "Yes." Yenjika nodded vigorously, her eyes shining brightly. "We are the champion." looking at her boyfriend who could not hide his tiredness in ecstasy and smelling the obvious sweat on his body. She did not feel dirty or disgusted. Instead, she thought Chung was really handsome now. Feeling excited, she opened her pink lips and was about to stand on tiptoe to give Lu Qing a deep kiss in front of the audience. When Lu Qing regained his senses, he felt his emotions explode like a bomb. Unable to restrain himself any longer, he lowered his head, intending to fiercely kiss his little fairy and share his inner feelings with her while helping each other in need. Just as their eyes met and they were about to lose control of their kiss, Kai Zhongming and the rest rushed over and surrounded Lu Qing. Some hugged his waist, some lifted his legs, and some grabbed his shoulders. Champion. They cheered and threw Lu Qing into the air before catching him firmly. Champion. The celebration ceremony was still going on. Yenjika took a step back and unconsciously touched her pink lips with her right hand. She was both surprised by her loss of control and regretful that it was interrupted by her teammates. Flying in the air, Lu Qing turned his head and looked at the beautiful Cuckoo. He gave her a happy yet helpless look, expressing his regret. When their eyes met, Yenjika giggled like 100 blooming flowers. Then she thought of something and hurriedly and worriedly reminded him. His hand is injured. Be careful, be careful. Champion, champion. In the stands, Yen Kai listened to the enthusiastic shouts and witnessed the excitement of his daughter and the Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. He took a deep breath and gave a neutral comment while recalling Lu Cheng's previous performance. His willpower is good and his strength is strong. Ji Mingyu had sharp ears and eyes. She chuckled and said, "My daughter's taste isn't bad. When they first started dating, I didn't expect Xiao Lu to grow to this level so quickly." "Ah, what did you say? I can't hear you." In the deafening noise, Yen Kai, who was not very strong and had no supernatural ability, turned his head and asked in confusion. Ji Mingyu couldn't help but laugh. She glanced at her dumb husband and didn't want to repeat herself. She grabbed his hand and swung it up, shouting loudly, "Champion! Champion!" In this kind of scene, it would be very incongruous to have a refined appearance. Occasionally indulging like this is good for health. Driven by his wife, Yen Kai gradually blended into the surrounding atmosphere and temporarily gave up his usual elegance. However, there was still something in his heart that worried him. Lu Qing was young and had a promising future. Would he be tempted to indulge in debauchery and indulge in debauchery? There were too many similar examples to mention. As a father, he would worry if his daughter's boyfriend was not good enough. He would also worry if her boyfriend was good enough. He couldn't stop worrying. The fourth round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the emergency room, Lin Kei, who was tied with many instruments, suddenly exhaled when he heard the doctor's report. His tight body relaxed and his tightly clenched fists stretched out. He closed his eyes and a manly middle-aged man seemed to appear in front of him. "Dad, I did it. I got the Fatian Cup," Lin Kei said to himself silently. The middle-aged man smiled faintly, his expression filled with relief. In the room next door, Bernhard and Mao Qingjun clenched their fists tightly, pain written all over their faces. They lost the championship that they were sure to win. Peng Liyun was lying on the bed. He didn't wonder or think. His expression was rarely sad and had a strong sense of loss. Since he started practicing martial arts, he had never encountered such a setback. "I said I wouldn't take part in the university tournament next year." He smiled self-deprecatingly. At this time, Fang Zhirong had already returned to the locker room and buried his face in a white towel. Su Wanyan was supported by the staff. He endured the pain in his hip and slowly walked out of the arena. He didn't expect to end the match so beautifully in such a posture. The fourth round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang reacted quickly and said with a smile, "Congratulations to Songqing University. Congratulations to Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. Congratulations to every member of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club for winning the championship of this year's National University Martial Arts Competition. Congratulations to them for winning the first national championship in the history of Songqing University. He finished in one breath and felt a little excited. Chun Sanxing was full of emotions as he continued the conversation. I believe everyone can see that Shanbei is indeed stronger than Songqing University. However, Lin Kei's courage to sacrifice himself and his determination to fight for his life helped to bridge the gap between them. Lu Cheng's will to withstand the pressure, and his performance as the heavenly son of the age brought them the final victory. What I want to say is that the strongest team lost, but the best team won. Congratulations to Songqing University Martial Arts Club. You are the best. After shouting these words excitedly, he took a breath and said with a smile, "Now I'm looking forward to seeing how my old friend will fulfill his promise." Looking at the chaotic replies on the Weibo interface, He Xiaowei was stunned for a full minute. Then he clicked on the nickname change section with a heavy arm. After some preparation, he closed his eyes and blindly typed in a new nickname. Poison Milk Hierarch. Phew. As soon as he finished, he leaned back and closed his eyes sadly. He felt that his superstitious self had died. Crack. When the referee announced the result, all-knowing man in gang hood angrily slammed the table and smashed his hard-earned treasure into pieces. He felt a sharp pain in his wrist as if there was a wound. After calming down, he suddenly realized that the bet of delete your account if Lu Qing reaches the inhuman stage was not very safe. The fourth round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the dormitory of the School of Arts of Songqing University, Yin Xiaoling thought that she would be so excited that she would post, drive, and celebrate. However, when she saw the result, she burst into tears. Her eyes were red and her vision was blurred. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for Lu Cheng and Lin Kei. After so many setbacks and so much effort, they finally won the championship. With tears in her eyes, she refreshed the forum and saw that it was full of champion posts. She cried even harder. It's not easy for everyone. Yen Xiaoling subconsciously turned around and looked at Mu Jinyan. She was also crying. Her eyes were red and her face was smeared with tears. You are crying too, Yen Xiaoling said in a choked voice. Isn't it a little inappropriate to use what a coincidence at this time? Well, I'm happy and worried at the same time, Mu Jinyan said while sobbing. Lingling, the effect of your wish is so good. That's... Yen Xiaoling was a little proud in her teary eyes. Mu Jinyan wiped her tears and said seriously, in order to not cause any backlash to them from tomorrow onwards, I will supervise you to get up early. Yen Xiaoling's mouth opened into an O shape. She was dumbfounded. After the joyous celebration, the staff began to clean up the arena and rearrange the mats. In the process, there were singers and dancers. After waiting for 20 minutes, everything was ready. The president of the National University Martial Arts Federation, Mr. Fang Jinyu, stepped into the arena with several guests. He first awarded the silver medal to the depressed Shanbei University students. Next, let's welcome the champion of this year's National University Martial Arts Competition, Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The host invited loudly. Woo woo woo. Wave after wave of trumpet sounds, led by Geezer Shi, Lu Cheng, and the others walked up one by one. They saw the gold medals being held by the hostess, and the fighter's flying trophy being placed on the table in front of them. All of a sudden, Lu Cheng's emotions surged again. He turned his head to look at Yin Zheka beside him with tears in his eyes. Her eyes were misty and drops of crystal tears slowly slid down her white cheeks. She was so beautiful. Didn't you say you never cry? Lu Cheng tried to calm down and joked with Yin Zheka. Yin Zheka sniffled and glared at him. She answered with a little sob. I said I never cry when I'm sad or sad. Now I'm so happy and moved. At this time, Li Mao and Kai Zongming helped Lin Kei out of the emergency room. He strongly requested to participate in the award ceremony after his injury was stabilized. Lu Cheng squeezed a step to Yin Zheka's side, leaving the seat on the right side for his brother-in-law. Before they could say anything, Fang Jinyu approached them and gave them the gold medals one by one. How much wine can this thing exchange for? Geezer Shi murmured. Fang Jinyu, who pretended not to know him, almost sprained his waist. After coughing twice, Fang Jinyu hung the gold medal around Lin Kei's neck and praised him with a smile. You have perseverance, courage, and action. That's all a martial artist can do. Lin Ke nodded slightly in response. He looked as calm as usual, but his eyes were not calm at all. Young talent, worthy of the title of Heavenly Son. Fang Jinyu moved closer to him and praised him. She then put the gold medal on him. I've just started, Lu Qing replied, half self-deprecating and half humorously. After the medals were handed out, Fang Jinyu picked up the Feitian Cup, which symbolized the highest honor, and was about to hand it to Coach Shi Jiangwo. Geezer Shi waved his hand and pointed at Lu Qing. Give it to the brat. Give it to Lin Ke, Lu Qing interrupted. Fang Jinyu didn't ask why. She solemnly handed the Feitian Cup to Lin Quebec. Lin Ke took it with both hands. Feeling the heavy weight, his vision suddenly blurred. He didn't recall the past. Instead, he suddenly raised the trophy high. The trophy for the champion of the National University Martial Arts Competition. Champion! The audience shouted, and so did Lu Qing and the rest. Bang! 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 The gun salute exploded. Countless white and black fragments fell down, forming a glorious background for Lin Ke, Lu Qing, Yanzheka, and the rest. Champion! Chapter 412. Champion. In the beautifully decorated barbecue bar, Lu Qing and the others raised their glasses and toasted each other. Once again, they celebrated the national championship, which was not easy to win. After the award ceremony, they first accepted an interview and took a group photo. Then they each carried the trophy around the field and returned to the locker room under the enthusiastic cheers of the audience. After showering, they got on the bus and returned to the hotel to put down their belongings. Then they gathered again and came here for a team celebration. Of course, Lin Ke was an exception. Seeing that everyone was so happy, Geezer Shi relaxed the rules and allowed them to drink to liven things up. Those who wanted to drink could drink, and those who didn't, he didn't force them. The only requirement was that they couldn't get drunk. Lu Qing and Yanzheka had their own principles, so they didn't make an exception. They held soda water and sour plum soup to their senior brothers and sisters. After another round of toasting, Sun Jian, who drank until his face was full of alcohol, picked up the beer bottle and poured a full glass. Then he pulled Lin Hua up, looked at the crowd and said humorously, I'm just a salted fish who only knows how to shout 666. Let me toast to you all. Lu Qing, Kai Zhongming and the others burst into laughter and said, You can toast to us all. Why do you need senior sister Lin to toast to us? Sun Jian smiled, then sighed and said, That's right. When we go back to Songcheng, Hua Hua and I probably won't come to the martial arts club again. Let's take this opportunity to say goodbye to you all. He and Lin Hua were going to work in Huahai, so some things had to be finalized in advance. The thesis defense also had to be put on the agenda. There were too many things to be done. Lu Qing and the others had long known and foreseen this, so they were mentally prepared. However, when they heard it from Sun Jian, they still felt sad. They had been together for almost 2 years, sweating and suffering together every day during the special training. How could there be no friendship? However, all good things must come to an end. Before Kai Zhongming and the others could say anything, Sun Jian said emotionally, Although I wasn't like Hua Hua and didn't get a chance to compete in the nationals this time, I still have a deep impression of them. I don't think I'm not a part of this team. Speaking of this, he laughed. When I first joined the martial arts club, I only wanted to practice martial arts and fight in competitions to vent my pent-up emotions. I didn't even think about the regional or national competitions. When I met senior brother Chun and the others, forget it, I won't say anything bad about them. In short, during those 2 years, I didn't feel like a member of the martial arts club. When I was free, I used the venue and strength training room. When I was not free, I ignored everyone. Over the past 2 years, I've been training, and working hard with everyone for the national competition. I truly feel that I'm a member of the martial arts club. I feel sad when I lose, but I feel happy when I win. In my father's words, I feel a sense of collective honor. Lu Qing and Yanzheka listened to him quietly. At the end of his speech, Sun Jian gulped down the beer in his glass and said emotionally, I'm sorry, but I don't know what to say. This toast is from the 10,000-year substitute Sun Jian to everyone. Lu Cheng and the others picked up their glasses, drank the contents in one gulp, and answered in unison. To senior brother Sun. Sun Jian filled a small glass of white wine for himself, held Lin Hua's hand and said, I once read a book. It said that most of a person's life is ordinary, and there is nothing to write home about. It is a cycle that goes on day after day. Only occasionally can one jump out and find the light, leaving a different color in one's life. My future may be as ordinary as this, but I can proudly say that when I was at the peak of my life, Hua, all of you, and I fought for our dreams together. We tasted the pain of failure and the joy of success together. We created miracles together. Burning the youth and leaving traces. That's great, that's great. He and Lin Hua raised their glasses together and said in a happy and sad voice, Remember to contact us when you come to Huahai in the future. Goodbye. We really have to see each other again. As he spoke, he actually cried and drank up the liquid in his glass. Lin Hua held back his tears, raised his head, and drank his own glass. Li Xiaowen and the others had tears in their eyes and raised their glasses, saying that they would definitely see each other again. Lu Cheng and Yanzhika also had tears in their eyes and mixed feelings. They also clinked their glasses and drank up, laughing and crying, happy and sad, excited and sad. Songqing University Martial Arts Club's celebration came to an end. Sun Jian violated Geezer Shi's ban and drank until he was dead drunk. He kept repeating, Goodbye, we have to see each other again. However, no one blamed him or scolded him. Standing outside the restaurant, the night wind blew. Everyone felt cool and refreshed. Burp, I won't go back to the hotel with you. I have to walk the road with my Fangyuan. Kai Zhongming, who had always been a good drinker, pointed at the girl on the other side of the road and said, Go ahead. Let's see how you'll play in the next 2 days. Lu Qing joked. At that time, he would be a foreign dog again. After watching Little Ming's back safely cross the crosswalk, Geezer Shi coughed and said, I've been so busy with the nationals that I haven't seen many of my old friends in the capital. You guys can go back by yourselves. I still have something to do. Yes, master. Lu Cheng, Yanzhika and the others waved their hands. After Shi Zhengwo left, Li Xiaowen and He became more active. They smiled at Lu Cheng, Yanzhika, Sun Jian and Lin Hua, saying, We're going shopping and drinking. We won't disturb you guys. Take care of yourself, Lu Cheng reminded. Don't worry, we have bodyguards. Li Xiaowen smiled and pointed at Li Mao. Laughing and joking, they crossed the street and left. At this time, Lin Hua stopped a taxi and pointed at Sun Jian. He said to Lu Cheng and Yanzhika, He's so drunk that I have to send him back first. Do you want to come with me? The hotel is not far. We're going to walk back. Lu Cheng smiled and helped Lin Hua put Sun Jian into the car. Bye-bye. Lin Hua sat in the car and waved to them through the window. Bye-bye. Lu Cheng and Yanzhika responded with a smile. The car started and drove away. They suddenly found that they were alone in the cool night wind. The previous bustle and noise had returned to silence. After a short period of adaptation, Lu Cheng smiled and covered his chest with his left hand. He bowed like a gentleman and said, Beautiful lady, no beautiful fairy, may I invite you to take a walk with me? His right arm was wrapped in layers of bandages and splinted, so he could only wave it forward clumsily. According to the doctor, with his body's recovery ability, he wouldn't need to go through so much trouble in a few days. He would be as good as new in about 3 weeks. Of course, the premise was that he didn't get hurt again. Yanzhika chuckled and said, You disabled person, don't be so fond of acting. Although she said so, she still gave her right hand to Lu Cheng and let him hold it. Bathed in the neon light, the two strolled leisurely on the street, enjoying the faint aftertaste of joy. Hey, when senior brother Sun Jian and senior sister Lin Hua just said goodbye, I was a little sad. Yanzhika suddenly sighed while chatting. Lu Cheng felt the same way. He nodded and joked. Coach Yan, I remember you once taught me that there are 2 kinds of friends. The first kind is those who only know each other for a short time, and will eventually drift apart. There's no need to be sad about it. Yanzhika put on an evil smile and rolled her eyes at him, while gnashing her teeth. I know that, but emotions can't be gone just like that. Lu Qing was glanced at by her lively eyes and suddenly felt some ripples in his heart. After looking around, he pointed to a quiet alley with his chin and said, "Let's go there." Ah. Yenjika blinked with a blank face. "We can take a shortcut there." Lu Qing answered without changing his expression, and pulled the girl to go there. Yenjika's face was full of confusion. Seeing that her boyfriend was so insistent, she no longer doubted him. Her steps became heavy and light. Every time she stepped on the floor tiles, she swayed, and her skirt fluttered. Lu Qing looked at her greedily. When they walked a few steps into the alley, he suddenly pulled the girl into his arms. Yenjika looked up in confusion, and was about to say something, but Lu Qing covered her mouth with his passionately. After a few moans, her body softened. She grabbed Lu Qing's clothes with both hands and took the initiative to stick out her tongue, letting her boyfriend suck her sweetness. Lu Qing kissed and hugged her tighter. He breathed in the girl's warm breath and felt the beauty of her delicate body. After a while, they finally separated and panted slightly. Yenjika glared at Lu Qing with bright and watery eyes. She said with annoyance and amusement, Why are you so excited? We're going back to the hotel soon." Lu Qing laughed and said, "I thought about it. Your parents will definitely come to talk to you tonight. When we go back to the hotel, we'll have to part for a while. So let's kiss first." "Oh, you've learned to answer first." Yenjika thought about it and found it reasonable. "It's all because of Coach Yan's good teaching." Lu Qing lowered his head and pressed his forehead against his little fairy's forehead. He murmured his inner feelings that he didn't have time to say. "So good. We're the champions. We're the champions with you." Such a posture and such words softened Yenjika's heart. She raised her head, opened her pink lips slightly, and looked at her boyfriend with sparkling eyes. She looked like she was waiting for a kiss. Lu Qing naturally did as she wished. The two of them were entangled and dilly-dallying. They walked for half an hour and finally saw the entrance of the hotel. When they saw Ji Mingyu and Yan Kai, a car stopped beside them. The car door opened. Lin Kai, who had changed into a t-shirt and casual pants, got out of the car with difficulty and stood in front of them. "Brother." Yenjika called out subconsciously. Lin Kai nodded slightly. He looked at them and said in a low voice, "I might not go back to Songqing University." Lu Qing was stunned. Yenjika seemed to have expected it. Lu Qing knew that Lin Kai came to Songqing University to make up for his father's regret. He didn't like Peng Liyun, who really liked to study, nor did he like Ren Li, who didn't want to be an illiterate person. The usual courses and the final degree were almost meaningless to him. Once his wish was fulfilled, there would be nothing holding him back. However, Lu Qing didn't expect Lin Kai's farewell to come so quickly and so unexpectedly. Lin Kai still looked cold, but he was a little more talkative than before. He said calmly, "I've heard a song before and remembered the lyrics. It's called 'The Good Days of Youth and Frivolity Are Over When You Grow Up.'" After pausing for a moment, he revealed an extremely faint smile. Using his usual indifferent tone, he said, "That's right. I've been frivolous. It's time for me to grow up." After saying that, he turned around, opened the car door and sat in again, leaving only a lonely figure for Lu Qing and Yenjika. The car drove away. Lin Kai didn't turn his head. He just raised his hand and waved casually. The car and him went further and further away until they were out of sight. The bustle was gone. It was deserted. Lu Qing closed his eyes. Lin Kai's words seemed to be echoing in his ears. "I've been frivolous. It's time for me to grow up." Chapter 413. Lu Qing and Yenjika were silent for a while. They walked side by side to the entrance of the hotel. "My brother must have been scolded by Grandpa for awakening his supernatural ability," Yenjika said faintly as they walked. Lu Qing sighed. "He did pay a lot. Anyway, he won the championship and his wish was fulfilled. There's no need to argue with your grandpa anymore." As someone who had fully experienced high school, he actually did not lack the experience of parting and sadness. However, at that time, his mentality and worldview were far from mature enough. He was full of longing for the future, and felt that meeting again was something that could happen often. His feelings for such things were more muddle-headed and not deep enough. But now the more he understood, the more he knew, the more he cherished the days when everyone fought together, suffered together, and broke through together. He understood that there might not be a future for some people, and some things once it was over. Therefore he couldn't help but feel sad. Luckily, Lin K was my brother-in-law. In the future he would also enter the pro scene, so they would see each other many times. It was just that it would be difficult for them to work together for the same goal, like they had in the past 2 years. Yeah, but it's still so sad. Yenjika pouted and looked wronged. Lu Cheng was about to say something when he saw his father-in-law and mother-in-law coming out of the revolving door. He straightened his back and cleared his throat in a low voice. But he didn't let go of the girl's hand, as if he was saying something. Dad, Mom. Yenjika called twice, her cheeks turning red, but she didn't retract her right hand. Uncle Yen, Auntie Ji. Lu Cheng followed suit and didn't feel at a loss. Yen Kai looked at their clasped hands and nodded slightly in response to Lu Cheng's greeting. Okay. He opened and closed his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but didn't in the end. Ji Mingyu laughed and said, Lu, how's your injury? Are you okay? You did a good job in the competition tonight. You surprised everyone again. Auntie, you flatter me. It's not a big deal. I'll be fine in a few weeks. Lu Cheng didn't show his eloquence or humor, but answered honestly. Good. Take care of yourself. Go sleep with me tonight. We can have a good chat. Let your father sleep on the sofa outside. Ji Mingyu looked at her daughter with a smile. Okay. Yenjika nodded slightly and turned to look at Lu Cheng. I'm going to my parents' place first. She paused, pursed her lips, tilted her head slightly and smiled. See you tomorrow, see you tomorrow. He waved to Yen Kai and Ji Mingyu and said, Uncle Auntie goodbye. See you tomorrow. Ji Mingyu chuckled and repeated her daughter's words. Yen Kai nodded elegantly. Watching the family of 3 leave, Lu Cheng sighed to himself. The atmosphere between his parents-in-law was indeed awkward and subtle. Even he, who had seen such a big scene before, was quite reserved. He wondered if someone as strong as Talker would still be able to act freely in front of his parents-in-law. While letting his mind wander, Lu Cheng returned to his room and turned on the lights. On the right was a big bed that he hadn't slept on for many days. On the left were items that were strewn everywhere. Lu Cheng suddenly felt like he had returned to a lonely home after a business trip for several months. The room was bright and full of loneliness and strangeness. This is the night after winning the championship? I'm the only one left. Lu Cheng sighed. Without changing his shoes, he walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, the skyscrapers were towering, lights were everywhere, and the Milky Way was everywhere. It was both prosperous and lonely. After staring blankly for a while, Lu Cheng suddenly felt his phone vibrate. He quickly took it out and saw Yenjika's message. I'm chatting with my parents. They have a good impression of you. Yenjika smiled shyly. Lu Cheng's lips suddenly curled up. The sadness he felt just now disappeared without a trace. He replied with a smirk. So we can get married now. Pfft, you wish. The revolution hasn't succeeded yet. Comrade, you still need to work hard. Yenjika said. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. He raised his hand to look at the love ring, and then looked outside again. This time, he only felt that the lights in the night revealed a faint but lasting warmth, illuminating the way home for the late traveler. The next day Lu Cheng, who had won the nationals, woke up early as usual. He didn't relax or slack off. His arm was injured, so it was difficult for him to practice many of his moves. He could only focus on internal training, footwork, and leg work. In the morning light, he turned and created wind, whistling as he wished. At 7:40 a.m., Lu Cheng finished his usual training and returned to the hotel. He washed his body with difficulty. At this time he, who was completely free, suddenly had some thoughts. He felt that the experience of winning the nationals last night was still so unreal and so dreamy. If the gold medal wasn't right beside him, he probably wouldn't have believed it. It hasn't even been a day, and I'm already thinking about it. Lu Cheng shook his head and laughed. Following the throbbing in his heart, he took the card, left the room, and prepared to take a taxi to the martial arts arena in the capital. Nothing happened along the way. The skyscrapers on both sides of the road were similar in every city. Lu Cheng was in a leisurely mood. He looked around with interest and occasionally chatted with Yenjika. Unknowingly, he arrived at his destination. He put on a pair of plain glasses, put his hands in his pockets, and strolled to the entrance of the martial arts arena. In the surrounding square, the crowd that had entered and left last night had long disappeared. Even the ground was clean, leaving no trace of the previous battle. Passing by several men and women who came to open the door, Lu Cheng's mood became extremely good. Even the outline of the tiles under his feet was pleasing to the eye. The entrance of the arena had been reopened. It was empty and sparsely populated. On both sides of the wall, there were posters of his confrontation with Peng Liyun. Smiling, Lu Cheng put his hands in his pockets and walked step by step to the arena. He found a place to sit down and softly looked at the place where the battle took place last night. He looked at the two children who were fighting with their fists and feet. Their moves were normal, but their bodies had yet to develop, and their strength was insufficient. Their footsteps were light, and they did not have any substantial power. Moreover, they had learned from the movies and television shows. Every move they made required a shout, and the fight was lively and lively. Hey, be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Several parents kept reminding him by the side until he was driven to the stands by the coach. Noticing that Lu Cheng was looking at the arena with a smile, an extroverted parent laughed and said, "Children insist on learning martial arts. We have no choice but to accompany them while we are free." Lu Cheng thought for a while and said with a smile, "Practicing martial arts is a good thing." As he said, he stood up and added, "Moderate training is good for development. If not, it will hinder development." The parents looked at each other in confusion. Lu Cheng did not say anything. He put his hands in his pockets and walked to the door. When he was about to go out, he looked back and looked at the familiar yet strange arena. Vaguely, from the perspective of a bystander, he seemed to see Lin Ke lifting the trophy, himself shouting to the sky, and Yenjika running to the arena. The corners of his mouth curled up as he turned around and left the place. Outside the arena, Lu Cheng took out his phone, took a picture of the entrance and sent it to Yenjika. A martial arts arena. Yenjika was surprised at first, and then she said angrily, "Why didn't you take me? Let's go together next time." Lu Cheng said with a silly smile, "I just had a sudden impulse." Yenjika giggled with a hand over her mouth emoji. "My silly Cheng actually has such a rough side." After that, she added, "Empress Dowager asked you to come for lunch. The address is..." Lu Cheng's leisurely mood faded away. He asked, "Do you want to buy cigarettes, alcohol, and fruits? I think I should bring these things for my first visit." "No need," Yenjika said with a confused expression. "It's not a formal visit. We're just having lunch together. Besides, we're still students." "But it's the first time I'm meeting your parents. I have to show my respect to them." Lu Cheng said with an emoji touching his chin. "No one will blame you for being polite. I don't have experience. I'll ask Empress Dowager." Yenjika hesitated for a while, and decided to ask for help. Lu Cheng said with a smile, "Empress Dowager probably doesn't know. Your dad only visited you for the first time a few years after you were born. It's okay. The focus is on my parents. If they think it's okay, then it's okay." Yenjika paused for a while and said, "Empress Dowager said you don't need to bring anything. She wants you to relax and not be too cautious." "Okay. I'll come over shamelessly?" Lu Cheng asked. Yenjika said with an emoji of rolling eyes, "Don't rush. Go back and change your clothes first. Wear that dark-colored shirt." And, looking at her nagging, Lu Cheng suddenly laughed and said, "Ku, are you a little nervous?" "I'm just worried that you don't know what to do," Yenjika said with a roll of the eyes emoji. Hee. Lu Cheng didn't expose her and replied, "I'll listen to Coach Yan's instructions." Because she cared about herself and their future, Ku was nervous and uneasy. "Yeah, me too." Back at the hotel, he took out his clothes and put them on according to Yenjika's instructions. Then he called a taxi and was ready to go. When he got to the lobby, he saw Li Mao, Li Xiaowen, and the others who were happily going out to play. He could feel their happy mood. Waving goodbye, Lu Qing stood at the door and waited for the taxi. The sun was shining brightly. Chapter 414. The place for dinner was a courtyard without any sign. When Lu Qing walked to the door, Yan Zhika, in a white knee-length dress, was already waiting outside. Her beautiful black hair was blown by the wind through the alley, gently dancing in the wind. It was as beautiful as a picture scroll. Seeing her boyfriend, her eyes lit up. She stepped forward and helped Lu Qing to tidy up the collar and wrinkles of his shirt. She smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. Just eat and talk." "I wasn't nervous before. Now that you mention it, I feel a little nervous." Lu Qing deliberately made a joke. Yenjika's beautiful eyes sparkled. She glanced at him, took his uninjured hand, and turned towards the yard. "Let's go." Passing through the mottled gate, the vines on the flower rack, and the clear little pond, Lu Qing and Yenjika entered the row of houses on the east side, into the quiet and secluded warm pavilion, surrounded by the faint fragrance of flowers. A quaint square table was placed by the window. Outside, flowers were blooming, leaves were lush, and waves were gently swaying. Lu Qing didn't have time to look at the calligraphy and paintings hanging on the wall, or the objects in the treasure pavilion. He cast his eyes on the square table and his father-in-law and mother-in-law. "Hello, uncle and auntie. Sit down." Ji Mingyu smiled and pointed to the seat opposite Yan Kai. "Okay." Lu Qing sat down with Yenjika. Just as the awkward and subtle atmosphere was brewing, Ji Mingyu said with a smile, "In terms of the local cuisine of the capital, this one ranks in the top 5 in my mind. And the environment is more suitable. Hehe, I prefer Xioshan food now. You should be able to get used to it." "Actually, I'm not a picky eater. The ingredients are not exotic, and the taste is not bad. I don't have a problem." Lu Qing responded with a smile. Ji Mingyu nodded. "It's not a big deal to use the best ingredients to make delicious food. But it's a real skill to use ordinary ingredients to make ordinary dishes that people can't stop praising. The combination of the two, the best ingredients and the real skill, makes delicious food. Like this one." Yenjika asked deliberately to liven up the atmosphere. With the domineering Empress Dowager taking the initiative to lead the conversation, the awkward atmosphere faded away. Lu Qing felt more at ease and answered all the questions in a well-behaved manner. Yan Kai didn't talk to him much. He just echoed Ji Mingyu's words from time to time, or glanced at Yenjika, who kept putting food into her semi-disabled boyfriend's bowl. His heart ached for his daughter's thoughtfulness. Ka had really grown up. Dishes were put on the table and taken away one by one. Lu Qing, who already had an inhuman appetite, was too embarrassed to show his true colors. He mainly chatted and ate as a supplement. "Well, the dishes are really good, but the portion is not enough. Fortunately, the Empress Dowager ordered more than 10 portions. She is indeed a martial arts aristocratic family. She even paid attention to these details." He thought silently. At the end of the conversation, Yan Kai glanced at him, took a sip of tea, and took the initiative to ask for the first time. "Lu, what are your plans for the future? Arrangements?" Lu Qing was stunned for a moment. Just as he was about to organize his words, Yan Kai added, "Your master has a close relationship with the military, so there must be some disputes in this regard. Do you want to take this path or play professional matches?" "Uncle Yan, I'm actually very afraid of death." Lu Qing thought about it and said self-deprecatingly, "If it's not necessary, I really don't want to risk my life. Playing professional matches suits me better." Yan Kai nodded slightly. "Do you have any goals? To become a physical invulnerability expert?" "Yes," Lu Qing answered honestly. "First, all the martial artists I'm familiar with are all physical invulnerability experts. I hope to have the strength to challenge them and compete with them. Second," he paused and continued, "second, because Ka's grandparents are both physical invulnerability experts." Yenjika's eyes curved into a smile, and she bit her lip. She wanted to say something coquettishly, but because her parents were present, she forced herself to hold it in. Yan Kai seemed to be reminded of the past. He was suddenly touched. After a moment of silence, he said, "Not bad. Work hard. Although I consider myself successful in my career and have good self-control, every time I meet my parents-in-law who are physical invulnerability experts, I still have mixed feelings. Besides, most of Mingyu's business depends on the Ji family and the two physical invulnerability experts. Yan Kai didn't say anything more. Ji Mingyu changed the topic and made the atmosphere more natural again. In the end, she smiled at Lu Cheng and said, "Lu, are you going back to Songqing tomorrow morning?" "Yes, the flight is after 10. Lu Cheng answered honestly. Ji Mingyu turned to Yenjika. "Could come with us today. When we reach the capital, we have to visit some elders." "Okay." Yenjika agreed in a crisp voice. After saying goodbye, she walked Lu Cheng to the door of the courtyard. "That's it?" Lu Cheng looked back and asked blankly. This was completely different from what he imagined meeting his parents-in-law. "That's right. What else do you want to do?" Yenjika blinked her eyes and asked him in amusement. "Shouldn't you ask me about the details? Like my surname, my name, where I'm from, where I'm going, how many people are in my family, how many acres of land each person has, how many cows are in the fields?" Lu Cheng answered in a joking tone. According to other people's experience, such meetings were always followed by interrogation. Pfft. Yenjika laughed. "It's not like they don't have the means to find out your details. Even if they don't, they should ask me in private first." "Who would ask you directly?" "That's so rude and embarrassing." "Okay." Lu Cheng was relieved. Yenjika pursed her lips. Suddenly, she turned her head to the side and added, "Empress Dowager is very, very satisfied with you now. She thinks you're talented and reliable. When it comes to being able to do what she says, she supports you." My dad can only accept it." Lu Cheng was delighted. He deliberately exaggerated. "This is called the more a mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law, the more satisfied she is? In your dreams." Yenjika turned back and rolled her eyes at him, but her eyes were full of unconcealable joy. They chatted for a while before going back. Lu Cheng had nothing to do in the afternoon, so he relaxed. However, he didn't have a gathering with his high school classmates in the capital. He just chatted with them on QQ for half a day. At night, Qifeng called him at around 10 o'clock as per her daily habit. She wanted to share with him how many congratulations she had received today. The next day, Lu Cheng didn't relax. He still went to the nearby park to practice. When he was about to finish, he suddenly found his master standing beside him with a wine pot. Lin Ke was caught back to Shushan's study. "He probably won't come back. What's your plan?" Geezer sure raised his chin. Without waiting for Lu Cheng's reply, he continued, "I've helped your principal win the championship, and I've rested enough. You can barely finish your apprenticeship, so it's time to leave. Brat, do you want to enter the professional competition in advance, or what?" "Master is leaving too." Lu Cheng was in a trance, but the idea in his heart became clearer and firmer. He thought for a while and said, "Master, I've improved to my current level in 1.5 years. I'm leaving too quickly. This national competition has exposed many problems. I want to settle down for a year, and enter the professional competition when I've reached the inhuman stage." "Well, this may be better. Also, Lin Ke is gone. You're gone too. If I leave too, won't the martial arts club return to its previous state?" "Yes, it's stronger than before, but everyone hasn't had time to grow up. It's likely that they won't be able to enter the division next semester. This will be a big blow to them. Besides, the students of Songqing University have finally supported us again. They must be very disappointed and sad if we suddenly return to the starting point. I think I want to stay for another year and lead the others. I'll leave when they grow up and have new blood. By that time, I'll be in my senior year and won't have many classes. Even if I leave early, I can still get a diploma." Geezer smiled, drank a mouthful of wine and said, "I knew it. You little brat, just lift your butt a little. I know what shit you want to shit." Suddenly erupting with superpowers is something that Lin Ke can do, and you will definitely choose to stay for another year. However, when the time comes, this old man has some things for you to do. "What things?" Lu Cheng asked in surprise. "Things related to the 9 words formula and Emperor Yen Force. I'll pick some simple things for you to do by yourself. You'll gain something and also train yourself. We'll talk about it when the time comes, Gizershur said seriously, which was rare for him. Because he didn't have the Emperor Yen force that evolved from Zhu Rong force, Lu Cheng's frost force didn't evolve into ice spirit force in order to balance ice and fire. Okay. Lu Cheng suppressed his curiosity and didn't ask further. At this time, Gizershur clicked his tongue and put his hands behind his back. Settle down well. Let's see how long it takes for you to reach the inhuman stage. After the training, the members of the martial arts club gathered and rushed to the airport to fly back to Songcheng. Along the way, the others only knew that Lin Ke had returned to Shushan study to recuperate. They were very excited to return home in glory. Lu Cheng revealed to Yen Zhika that his master was also leaving. Both of them were very sad. After getting off the plane, a school bus came to pick them up. Lu Cheng and the others returned to the new campus of Songcheng University after a long absence. This time, the school bus stopped directly outside the martial arts arena, so that they could put the Nationals champion trophy in the honor room first. On Monday, they would meet the principal to receive the commendation. After getting off the bus and walking to the entrance of the martial arts arena, Lu Cheng turned his head and complained to Yen Zhika with a smile. Suddenly, it feels a little strange. While talking, the two approached the entrance. Suddenly, they were stunned, because the inside was full of students. Students spontaneously filled the seats. There were thousands of them, both male and female. They were holding banners and shouting in unison in an organized manner. "We're here! We're the champions!" The warm and surging atmosphere hit him in the face. Lu Cheng's heart suddenly settled down and unconsciously revealed a smile. "We're the champions." End of part 2. Chapter 415. Ding. A message rang. Lu Cheng picked up his phone and found that the champion's prize money had been transferred to his account. Your savings account ending with XXXX received 250000 yuan electronically at 9:45 on April 30th. Current balance is 904,724.84 yuan. Since this National University martial arts competition had attracted a lot of attention, the broadcasting copyright fee and ticket income had also increased. Every team that made it to the next round could get at least 500,000 yuan, which could be used to cover the transportation fee, accommodation fee for more than half a month, bus rental fee, and training ground rental fee. There was still some leftover, which could be used to give some subsidies to the coaches and team members. If a team entered the top 8, they could get at least 800,000 yuan. The top 4 would get 1,100,000 yuan, the second place would get 1,400,000 yuan, and the champion would get 1,800,000 yuan. This time, Songcheng University was even more generous than during the preliminaries. After deducting 380,000 yuan for various expenses, they only took 300,000 yuan for management fee. As the core members, Gizershur, Lu Cheng and Lin Ke each got 250,000 yuan. Yen Zhika, who had more fights and won the key victory in the capital, got 100,000 yuan. Li Mao, who fought until he was injured, got 80,000 yuan. Kai Zongming, who fought alone, got 60,000 yuan. Lin Hua, who fought against the He brothers, got 40,000 yuan. Sun Jian, He Zi and Wang Dali, the 3 substitutes, got 15,000 yuan each. Li Xiaowen, who did daily chores, got 10,000 yuan. As for the rest, the team members who participated in the special training, but didn't go to the capital got 3,000 yuan each. The rest went to the public account of the martial arts club to cover their daily expenses, such as computer maintenance, dinner parties. Unknowingly, I'm going to be a millionaire soon. Lu Cheng took a screenshot and showed off his little bank account to Yen Zhika, feeling both happy and amused. He didn't think that he was rich, but as a college student, he didn't need to buy a house for the time being. He didn't need to consider buying a car, so he didn't need to prepare for his wedding, honeymoon expenses, funds to feed his children, and future retirement savings. What's more, he could go to the ice god sex business and get some elixirs and ingredients every month. He spent most of his time on campus, and only went out for a date once every 1 or 2 weeks. No matter how much he ate, as long as he didn't chase after the best ingredients, he wouldn't consume too much. Adding all of these together, even including the extra elixirs for the swordsman formula, he had used less than 100,000 elixirs since the middle of February. In the past, Lu Qing would have been under a lot of pressure to make money. However, with Wu Ting's father's endorsement contract of 700,000 yuan, and the prize of the national competition champion of 250,000 yuan, it was inevitable that he would feel that no matter how much money he spent, he wouldn't be able to spend it. Looks like I'm still too naive. He silently gave himself a thumbs up. Yenjika replied quickly. My bonus has arrived. Including mine, you're a millionaire. Shouldn't we say that our family happens to be millionaires? Lu Qing proudly pushed up his sunglasses and casually said, I've finished packing. Now I'm here to look for you. They had already made plans for a trip on the 1st of May. Thinking that they didn't have classes for the first half of the month and had to rely on self-study, they decided to leave early and return late. Not only could they avoid the traffic rush hour, but they could also almost double their holiday. What a wonderful thing. Yenjika replied with a blank expression. Wait for a while. I'll put something on and do it a little. Are you going to put on makeup? What a serious treatment. I'm a little flattered. Lu Qing replied with a raised eyebrow expression. Didn't you say that I pay special attention to girls, and that I'm not serious about dating you? Humph, I'll fulfill your wish. Yenjika sent an emoji of looking up at the sky. I'm looking forward to it. Lu Qing began to imagine. Putting down his phone, he looked around in his free state. He happened to see model worker, Zhang Jingye, carrying his luggage and walking to the door, passing by him. Going on a trip with your girlfriend? Lu Qing asked with a smile. Yeah. You too? The northwestern man Zhang Jingye glanced at the big backpack on the table. Yeah. You're not going to class in the afternoon? Lu Qing teased. Zhang Jingye looked at him from the corner of his eyes and laughed. I think you're not going either. Yeah, what a coincidence. Lu Qing replied exaggeratedly. What a coincidence. Zhang Jingye replied with a smile, and walked out of the door of the small dormitory. At this time, the head of the dormitory, Zhao Chong, took out a few books and stuffed them into his bag. He joked, I'm envious of you guys who have girlfriends. I can only focus on class. Hey Chong, didn't you say that you wanted to make a move on an old classmate? Lu Qing asked curiously. During the winter vacation, Zhao Chong reconnected with a high school classmate who was also studying in Songcheng. In the past few months, they had been chatting passionately. In the dormitory, he announced that he would seize the opportunity to make a move on her and get rid of the label of being single. Zhao Chong coughed twice and said with a blush, I'm just thinking about it. Classmate, you can't just think about it when it comes to chasing a girl. You have to put it into action. Don't be afraid of failure. Lu Qing first reminded him seriously and then snickered. You'll get used to it if you fail too many times. Anyway, there's the Casanova next door. It's not wrong to ask for more advice. Zhao Chong suddenly sighed. If I were half as capable as you, I would have made a move on her with full confidence. Since you said so, what else can I do? I can only reluctantly be proud of it. Lu Qing smiled and spread out his hands. But then again, when I mustered up the courage to chase my coup, I didn't have much ability. I just used Piao Rou and that's how confident I was. He jokingly ran his fingers through his hair. Of course, to be honest, the substantial breakthrough in his relationship with Ku was because he had put her in his shoes during the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. He had gone through a period of high-spirited and miraculous journey with her. He had also shown the qualities and potential that made the girl feel reliable. Mustering up the courage to chase was a necessary condition, but not a sufficient one. After all, there was no rule in the world that if you were to chase a girl, she would have to accept it. You're right. Zhao Chong seemed to have just thought of this point. He seriously pondered and said, forget it. An elder used his own life experience to teach us that we should study more while we are young and grasp more knowledge in all aspects. We shouldn't waste our time on love. Lu Qing was speechless and watched Zhao Chong carry his bag and leave the dormitory. After playing with his phone for a while, he finally received a message from Yenjika. The girl said, you can go out in 5 minutes. Okay. Lu Qing quickly replied and carefully put his right arm through the strap of the backpack to carry his luggage. I'd better wait at the door of Ku's dormitory for these 5 minutes. When he was about to step out, old Qiu Zhigao ran back with sweat all over his face and shouted, "Damn, I'm late, I'm late." He looked up and saw Lu Qing. He smiled and asked with expectation, "Qing, do you think it's possible for me to reach the amateur third pin before my senior year?" After almost 4 semesters of hard work, he sadly found that he was not cut out for studying. Although he had never failed a course, he was not in the top 20% of the class. He had not even won the lowest scholarship. No matter how hard he tried, he could not catch up. So he began to think about the problem realistically. He planned to pick up martial arts and get a certificate of amateur third pin, which would increase his chances of finding a job in his senior year. With your physique and strength, as long as you can hold more than 3 times a week, there's a good chance. Lu Qing answered pertinently. Qiu Zhigao suddenly beamed with joy. In his mind, Lu Qing was already a grandmaster in the martial arts circle of the university. If he said he had no problem, then there was no problem. Okay, if you have time, please give me some advice. Feel free to tell me if you need anything. Old Qiu was in a hurry to go to class. He hurriedly packed his bag and ran into the dormitory bathroom to take a cold shower. Phew, everyone's college development is different. Lu Qing sighed and left the small dormitory with his bag. When he passed by the next door, he glanced at him casually and was suddenly stunned. Student Xiaoming was immersed in his studies. Occasionally, he would write furiously and draft a manuscript. Holy **T. What kind of blow did you get? Lu Qing was shocked and blurted out. Kai Zongming looked up and said grumpily, "What's wrong with studying hard? I haven't been in class for almost a month. I have to make up for it." As he spoke, he revealed a self-deprecating smile. "I didn't say it. My Feng Yuan said it." "Then why don't you go to the classroom to study by yourself?" Lu Qing suddenly realized and asked subconsciously, "Is there a problem with studying by myself in the dormitory?" Little Ming asked in confusion, "Aren't you afraid that you can't resist the temptation of computer games?" Lu Qing laughed. "Since mobile games became popular, I can play in the classroom if I want to. I don't care about appearances." Kai Zongming answered righteously. Lu Qing clicked his tongue and said, "But the atmosphere in the classroom is different. Everyone is studying. You will be embarrassed to play mobile games by yourself. So you will control yourself." Kai Zongming snorted and said with a look of disdain, "Qing, do you think I'm the kind of person who will be influenced by others and be affected by the atmosphere, and then stop playing games and studying seriously?" "No." Lu Qing gave him a thumbs up, turned around and rushed to the door. After waiting for a few minutes outside the 3rd dormitory, Lu Qing saw his girlfriend walking out gracefully with a new suitcase. Her bangs were elegant. Her facial features were delicate. Her dress was elegant, and her legs were straight. She was like a painting. Ku is so beautiful after dressing up. Lu Qing didn't hide his loving and burning eyes. Yenjika raised her chin slightly and looked away proudly. "Let me do it." Lu Qing reached out to take her suitcase. "No need. I'll take it myself, you handicapped person." Yenjika glanced at him. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Handicapped? What the hell is handicapped?" Yenjika smiled and then turned to him. "You have to hold my hand when you have time." Lu Qing smiled and said, "It's okay. I'm not wearing a splint. It's not a problem to hold a fairy's hand." Yenjika was about to say something when her phone rang. It was a call. "My grandpa." She glanced at it and said to Lu Qing in confusion. Then she chose to pick it up. "Hello, Grandpa?" "Hello, Ku." Ji Jianzhang's slightly old voice laughed. "Bring Lu here on the 1st of May. Let me and your grandma see him." Chapter 416. Yenjika was a little confused at her grandpa's order. She looked at Lu Qing and didn't reply directly. What the hell is going on? Why is Grandpa suddenly asking me to take Qing to Jiangnan? Why didn't he say so earlier? Lu Cheng's senses were very strong now. He had already heard everything in front of him. While thinking, he nodded to his girlfriend with a smile. indicating that he was fine with it. Although he was disappointed that he couldn't travel with Ku alone, getting the approval of her elders would give her a strong sense of security. Anyway, there will be similar opportunities in the future. After asking for her boyfriend's opinion, Yenjika came back to her senses. She puffed up her cheeks and said, "Grandpa, why didn't you say so earlier? Chung and I have other plans." Okay, we'll come over. We'll change it right away." Ji Jianzhong smiled and said, "I thought you would take the initiative to bring him to see me. But after waiting day after day, there was still no news. So I had to be thick-skinned and invite him myself." Yenjika blushed and smiled embarrassedly. "I was thinking of waiting for the summer vacation." She was afraid that her silly Chung would be bullied, so she planned to wait until Lu Chung reached the inhuman stage before bringing him to the Ji family. "Let's do it today. Send me Lu's identity information. I'll ask someone to arrange the itinerary for you." Ji Jianzhong chuckled. After the call, Yenjika glanced at Lu Chung and said coquettishly, "Grandpa, you're too much. We've already booked the plane tickets and hotel before you tell us. It's okay. Traveling anywhere is still traveling." Lu Chung smiled comfortingly. "But my strategy won't be of any use. Coach Yen, we'll have to rely on you to lead the way." "Don't worry, I won't lose you." Yenjika smiled and was touched by her boyfriend's understanding. Then she deliberately livened up the atmosphere. "I'm so angry. I can't get a full refund. It's all Grandpa's fault. I'll ask him to give you a big red packet." "Red packet?" Lu Chung asked blankly. "It's a tradition in Jiangnan. Men and women who have confirmed their relationship cough." Yenjika's cheeks were slightly red. She turned her head and said, "When you visit for the first time, the elders will give you a red packet." "It's a red packet from my grandson-in-law," Lu Chung concluded with a smile. To be honest, he was not nervous about meeting Yenjika's grandpa and grandma. In the eyes of the young people of his generation, the father-in-law and mother-in-law were directly related to the girlfriend. Naturally, they would pay more attention to it and feel more nervous. Grandpa and grandma didn't seem to have a big impact on them after a generation. As for the fact that he was a physical invulnerability expert, it wasn't like he hadn't seen one before. He didn't have a physical invulnerability expert backing him up. While they were chatting and laughing, Yenjika sent Lu Cheng's personal information to her grandpa and waited for him to coordinate. The Songqing University students around them had already cast their gazes on them and sent silent greetings. Some of them even plucked up the courage to ask for autographs. Since winning the national championship, Lu Cheng had been in the state of everyone in Songqing University. He had become the idol of many seniors, juniors, and classmates of the same year. Wherever he went, he would attract attention and feel goodwill. Just as he was considering the fact that the sun was getting brighter and the number of onlookers was increasing, he had to drag Ku to a cafe or other places to avoid the heat. Soon a phone call came to her. He told her about several first-class cabins and asked her to choose. If she was still not satisfied, she could use Shushan Study's private jet and apply for a flight route. "Let's take the 12:30 flight." Yenjika didn't want to bother others and quickly made a decision. Then they took the school bus out of Songqing University and arrived at the airport according to the original plan. However, the flight had changed, and the destination on the ticket was changed from the neighboring province to Jiangnan Province. There was no delay and no delay. The flight took off on time. Lu Cheng drank the mineral water that was cooled by itself and casually chatted with his girlfriend. "Ku, I'm thinking about a problem." "What?" Yenjika turned her head and looked at her boyfriend with clear and beautiful eyes. And I'm saying if your parents and your grandparents are not satisfied with me and don't want you to marry me, what will you do?" Lu Cheng asked with a smile. It was because Empress Dowager was satisfied with him, and his father-in-law didn't object that he dared to ask this question. It was just a way for couples to communicate. Yenjika rolled her eyes and bit her lower lip with her white teeth. Her dimples appeared. "Of course I'll listen to them." Lu Cheng was stunned. "Ku, that's not the right answer." Seeing his reaction, Yenjika covered her mouth and chuckled, like spring water flowing out of a spring. In the end, she said, "You're such a good liar." After joking, she pursed her lips and said while thinking, I'm the one getting married, not them. My opinion is the most important. If they don't object, I'm happy. If they object, I'll do what I want. As long as I have the ability to support myself and live a good life, other people's opinions are just decorations. I don't think the blessings of relatives are important. Empress Dowager didn't give me any blessings, but she still lived happily. I find that you are deeply influenced by Empress Dowager. Lu Qing was delighted by her answer. You have a gem in front of you. Yenjika smiled and then asked, what about you? If your parents don't like me, what will you do? *CK. Asking about this kind of thing always brings me back to myself. Lu Qing criticized himself in his mind. First he complimented. My Ku is so cute, so pretty, so kind, and so sensible. My parents will definitely like you. He paused for a moment and said in a serious tone. My thoughts are about the same as yours. Yes, it's all thanks to Coach Yan's good influence. Also, maybe it's because I've grown up. I have the strength and confidence to not rely on my parents, and I can live a good life on my own. Therefore, their opinions are only for reference. I will be filial to them, but that doesn't mean that I have to listen to everything they say. Actually, in my family now, I'm pretty much the one who makes the decisions for me. This was a natural evolution of family status. As long as one's character was not weak, not stupidly filial, and was able to make a decision, after one's career had reached a certain level, one would almost always make decisions for his parents instead of them. Yenjika listened to Lu Qing quietly, her eyes sparkling. But in the end, she burst out laughing. Qing, haha, I just thought of a saying. Haha, when you have a wife, you forget your mother. Hey, be serious. Lu Qing spread his hands helplessly. When couples were together, as long as they were serious about getting married and spending the rest of their lives together, they would inevitably fantasize about the future and discuss every aspect of their marriage life. Unknowingly, the plane began to descend and landed steadily on the tarmac. After taxiing for a while, Lu Qing and Yenjika exited the cabin and walked towards the arrival hall. On the way, the girl received a call and turned to Lu Qing. Qing, let's go straight to the parking lot later. Brother Lingqian is coming to pick me up. The previous generation of the Ji family had the word Ming, while the current generation had the word Ling. Ji Lingqian was not from Ji Jianzhang's branch, but belonged to his younger brother's branch. He was a martial artist at 28 years old, and had been in the inhuman stage for 2 years. He was a fifth pin professional, and was the vice president of the Ji family's security company. He had a good relationship with this side. Yenjika's first uncle's daughter was her closest cousin, Ji Lingxi. Her second uncle's 2 children were her cousin, Ji Lingfang and Ji Lingyun. Brother Lingqian is coming personally. Haha, every time you mention him, I'm reminded of my pocket change. Lu Qing joked, dragging his suitcase with his left hand, and letting the girl hold his right hand. Yenjika pursed her lips and laughed softly. Me too. I always laugh when I call him that. You should call him Brother Lingqian too. When you see my grandparents, you should call them Grandpa Ji and Grandma Do, or Senior Ji and Senior Do. She seriously reminded him about how to address him. It didn't take long for them to find the location Ji Lingqian had mentioned. They saw a dark blue SUV. Ji Lingqian was tall and thin, with handsome features and a calm temperament. He was casually dressed in a dark casual shirt and pants. When he saw Lu Qing and Yenjika walking over hand in hand, he shook his head and smiled. Lu Qing, isn't your arm injured? Don't spoil my sister. Brother Lingqian, what are you talking about? He insisted on holding my hand and didn't allow me to carry my own luggage. Yenjika pouted. Brother Lingqian. Lu Qing followed suit. He smiled and moved his right arm. It's already healed. Ji Lingqian sighed. Seeing you like this reminds me of my first love. Hey, get in the car. We'll talk in the car. The car door opened. The interior was spacious. There were curtains and partitions blocking the driver's seat, so that the driver couldn't see the situation behind. The 2 rows of seats were arranged so that they faced each other. There was a bar counter and a small refrigerator around them. After putting down their luggage, Lu Qing didn't look around the car. He sat down with Yenjika. Ji Lingqian plopped down on the seat opposite them. What do you want to drink? He smiled and pointed at the bar counter. I'm not drinking. I drank a lot on the plane. Yanjika turned to Lu Cheng. How about you? I'm not drinking either. Lu Cheng shook his head. As they spoke, the car door closed. The car moved forward steadily and made silent turns. Ji Lingqian crossed his arms in front of him and laughed. Lu Cheng, I'll call you Little Lu, otherwise we'll be too distant. I've watched your key matches in the university tournament. Not bad. You have a good eye. You're much better than I was when I was young. No wonder second grandpa invited you here. Speaking of this, he looked at Yanjika and said, second grandpa did this in a hurry. Everyone was away for the holidays. I went to the south to do a security mission. I was so tired that I was resting at home. But I was asked to do this. I thought grandpa had it all arranged. That's good. Yanjika was puzzled at first, but then she sighed in relief. This way, Ching only needed to see grandpa and grandma. It would be easier and less awkward. Her boyfriend would feel bad for her. What's good about it? Lingxi and Lingfang said they wanted to come back and meet the heavenly son of the era. Ji Lingqian snorted. Regardless of whether Ji Lingqian was being sincere or not, Lu Cheng felt an inexplicable sense of vanity when he heard his words. He was secretly pleased. Along the way, Yanjika and Ji Lingqian were the only ones chatting. Lu Cheng interjected from time to time, so he wasn't too reserved. When the car arrived at the Ji family's old house and entered the courtyard, Lu Cheng's breath caught his attention. Through the dark glass, he saw a thin old man with graying sideburns standing beside a flower stand. Grandpa! Yanjika jumped out of the car and shouted. Lu Cheng followed and greeted him respectfully. Senior Ji. This was the famous heaven-leaning sword. His aura was as deep as the sea. Ji Jianzhong smiled and nodded. He said to Yanjika, Go in and meet your grandma. At this point, he turned to look at Lu Cheng. Little Lu, accompany me for a walk. Chapter 417. The scenery on both sides receded as the car sped along. Lu Cheng was a little scared and couldn't help but advise her. You don't have to drive so fast. Yanjika glanced at him out of the corner of her eyes. She let go of the accelerator and slowed down. Blushing, she said with an embarrassed smile. I saw others overtaking me and driving so fast, so I thought that it's okay to drive faster. Aren't they all the same? Lu Cheng was dumbfounded as he listened. He carefully observed his surroundings, using his eyes to measure the details of his surroundings. What are you thinking about? Yanjika's right foot in white casual shoes unconsciously stepped on the accelerator again. Lu Cheng answered with a complicated expression. I'm thinking about how to accelerate if something goes wrong, how to step on the brake, and how to resist the collision from the opposite side. Yanjika slowed down the accelerator again, and didn't know what to say for a while. When they stopped at the traffic light, she asked with both annoyance and amusement, Am I really that bad? I think everything went well except for the ignition at the beginning. It's not about bad. You're not in the right state of mind. You can't always think about overtaking others and driving so fast. You have to control yourself. How can you not wet your shoes if you always walk on the roadside? Lu Cheng was afraid that Ko would have an accident when he was not with her. So he reminded her seriously, which was rare. Yanjika pouted. Okay, I'll try my best. The green light flashed, and the car started again. This time, she listened to Lu Cheng's advice and drove very steadily. Sometimes she wanted to overtake or speed up, but she realized it in time and controlled herself. Where are we going for a drive? Lu Cheng was in the mood to look at the scenery outside the car. He saw tall buildings and a river of lights. Yanjika smiled and said in a light tone, I'll take you to see the night market in Linning first, and then we'll go to the river to get some fresh air. The capital of Jiangnan province was called Linning. Night market? What's it like? Lu Cheng thought of the flea market in Xiushan. You'll know when we get there. Yanjika kept him guessing with a smile on her face. The car turned left and right and arrived at a busy street half an hour later. At first glance, the street was as bright as day. Simple shops were lined up in 3 rows and meandered into the distance. Crowds of people and voices filled the air. With the help of the reversing radar and video, Yinjika parked the car with a sense of accomplishment. She held Lu Cheng's hand and walked into the night market. There were all kinds of cheap items for sale here, such as clothes and cell phone cases, as well as fragrant delicacies. Lu Cheng stretched out his left hand and put it on the girl's other shoulder. He pulled her to his side, separating her from the pedestrians who were rubbing shoulders. As they walked and stopped, Yinjika fully enjoyed the pleasure of bargaining. Although she was not interested in those things, she just wanted to experience life. She criticized Lu Cheng seriously, saying that he had never learned how to bargain. Every time he talked, it would be, "How much is it?" 150. "Can you make it cheaper?" "No." "Okay, give it to me," and so on. He never deviated from the basic principle. They started their business here. Now it's a national chain. But other than this place, they don't taste good. Their family started their business here, and now it's a national chain restaurant. But other than here, the other restaurants don't taste good. "I think their other stores are good." Lu Cheng asked with interest. "I think their other stores are okay." Lu Cheng asked with interest. "That's because you haven't eaten anything good." While they were talking, the chicken was ready and put into a bag. They held hands and ate as they walked. They both thought it was like a student couple on a date. While they were talking, the chicken chops were ready and put into a bag. The two of them each took a piece, held hands and ate as they walked. Both of them felt that this was like a student couple dating. It's true. It's much better than the ones in Songcheng." Lu Cheng chewed on the tender chicken chop and expressed his admiration and surprise. He swallowed half of it in 2 or 3 bites. Yinjika lifted her chin slightly and smiled smugly. "I told you, but you didn't believe me." She took out her phone and let Lu Cheng lean his head and body to her. They held the chicken and took a selfie. She took out her phone and asked Lu Cheng to take a selfie with the chicken. She didn't like to take pictures. She didn't know when it started, but she, who didn't like taking pictures, started to like using this method to record the interesting things they experienced together. Snap! Yinjika pursed her lips and tilted her head, trying to portray a beautiful image. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, didn't care. He laughed and said, "Ku, you haven't eaten much at roadside stalls before, right? Where did you get this place?" "My cousin, Sister Lingxi, brought me here once." Yinjika answered with a sweet smile. Sister Lingxi is indeed an experienced player. Lu Cheng nodded in understanding. Ji Lingxi was the eldest daughter of the Ji family. She was 4 years older than Ku. She was born with great strength, but didn't like martial arts. She wanted to study and be a manager. She was a professional 9th pin fighter in her first year, and was still a professional 9th pin fighter in her 4th year. 2 years after graduation, she reached the threshold of the dance stage. She was a very playful person. She skateboarded, surfed, rappelling, sang, danced, traveled, took a cruise to the sea, collected bags, and so on. In addition, she was also interested in experiencing the different specialties of different places, exploring roadside delicacies and interesting shops. She was the kind of person who could go to banquets and food stalls. They talked and laughed. They ate from the chicken chop shop to the end of the night market. They ate from one stall after another, all of which were certified by the gourmet Ji Lingxi. After a round, they returned to the car from the outside of the night market. Yinjika led Lu Cheng to the riverside to take a walk in the cool night wind. The Ning River was wide and refreshing. The water blew on their faces, moistening their skin and soul. The girl held Lu Cheng's hand and walked beside the guardrail. She giggled and swayed as if she was still a little girl. "It's late. We have to go back." She looked at her watch. "We can stay out all night." Lu Cheng instigated with a half-truth and half-lie. Yinjika rolled her eyes at him and mimicked his tone. "Then you will be hunted down by my grandpa and grandma for 8 streets." Shivering, Lu Cheng joked. It was his first day here, and he had already abducted someone's granddaughter and stayed out all night. Was he asking for a beating or a beating? They opened the door and got into the car. Yinjika had just sat down. Before she could fasten the seat belt or start the car, She felt her body tilted and fell into Cheng's arms. You. Just as she raised her head, she saw Lu Cheng's scorching black eyes. Having shared a bed and pillow intimately during the national competition, Lu Cheng had long been itching to make a move. Due to Yan Kai and Ji Mingya's interference and other reasons, they hadn't been intimate for the past week. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Yenjika closed her eyes, straightened her fair and slender neck like that of a swan, and gave in. Her legs were curled up on her side, and she was in the same position as her boyfriend. They were squeezed very closely together. Lu Qing had observed the surroundings and knew that there was no one here. He kissed her passionately and let his hands move. He started from her shoulders, back and legs and gradually went deeper. Could this seat can it be reclined? Lu Qing asked anxiously as he kissed the girl's ear. I can't do it like this. I don't know. You can search. Yenjika answered in a soft and confused voice. She didn't even know what she was talking about. Search at this time? Lu Qing didn't want to be distracted. He wanted to use force concentration to lean against her and knock down the seat. At this moment, a sharp ringing sound rang out, echoing continuously. Yenjika pushed Lu Qing away and glared at him with embarrassment and anger in her eyes. She pursed her moist lips, picked up her phone and answered the call. Hello Sister Lingxi? You're back. Yes, we're outside. I brought Cheng to the night market. Okay, we're going back. Lu Qing laughed helplessly at the side. He reached out and helped Ka tidy up her clothes. Humph, it's dangerous to be with you. Yenjika sat back in the driver's seat and calmed herself down. She started the ignition with a blushing face. I haven't been intimate with you for a long time. Lu Qing adjusted his pants. Yenjika glared at him and bit her lip. It'll be fine after a few days. Anyway, I'm on my period tomorrow. As she spoke, she burst into laughter. I know. Oh, where's your aunt? Lu Qing changed the topic and asked about his aunt. She went to Shushan study to take care of my brother. Yenjika calmed herself down and started the car. The journey was smooth without any accidents. They arrived at the old house of the Ji family in 40 minutes. After parking the car, Lu Qing and Yenjika walked towards the main entrance. Before they could get close, they heard someone talking loudly inside. My 300,000 for a gram. It has a medicinal fragrance. It can cure many diseases. It's not as good as your Buddhist beads, Brother Li. This string of prayer beads is made of ordinary materials. It was blessed by a senior monk from the Daxing temple, and nourished by chanting scriptures every day for half a year. I was unlucky last year, so my dad begged for this string of prayer beads. It's hard to say how much it's worth. All right. Don't brag about it every time. Get one for each of us if you can. What the hell? Lu Qing was confused. This was a field he didn't understand at all. Yenjika glanced at him and said in a low voice, Don't mind them. They like to play these games. It's boring. She turned the handle and pushed the door open. 2 men and 2 women were chatting in the main hall. Lu Qing recognized Ji Lingxi at a glance. She looked more like the Empress Dowager than his classmate Ku. She was tall and graceful, but her eyebrows were not sharp enough. You're back? Ji Lingxi's white t-shirt, denim shorts and high-heeled sandals showcased her figure to the fullest. She stood up with a smile and said, Come, let me introduce you. This is Zhang Li, the young master of the Jindi group. His father has a good relationship with several eminent monks of Daxing Temple. Zhang Li's skin was dark, and his eyes were ordinary. He wore a dark brown prayer beads on his wrist. This is Han Zhengqiao. His mother is the chairman of the Provincial Martial Artist Association. Ji Lingxi pointed to the other man with a smile. Han Zhengqiao was more handsome than Zhang Li, but his eyes were heavy and his qi and blood were not strong enough. He was holding a green pendant in his hand. This is Guogua. Could you know her? We've had dinner together a few times. Her father is now independent. Ji Lingxi looked at the girl with long wavy hair beside her. Then she pointed to Yenjika and said, I don't think I need to tell you. My cousin Yenjika. A few guys wanted to pursue her, but they were beaten to the punch. Hey, Ku, introduce him yourself. Yenjika looked at Lu Qing and thought for a moment. The corners of her mouth curled up, and she said simply without adding anything, "He's Lu Cheng." Chapter 418. He's Lu Cheng. The four simple words made the atmosphere suddenly solemn. Zhang Li, Guogua, and the others were silent for more than 10 seconds. See, this is the heavenly son of the age. Ji Lingxi was the first to come back to herself. She smiled and looked at her companions. Then she turned to Yan Zheka and complained. When they heard that Lu Cheng was coming, they were so excited and curious. They shamelessly followed me home. They wanted to see what the heavenly son of the age looked like, and whether he had 3 heads and 6 arms. So I'm a monster? Lu Cheng replied humorously. No. You're not a monster. After practicing martial arts for a year and a half, you've already reached the top of 6th pin. You're not a monster. You're a Superman. Zhang Li smiled. He was relatively calm. His left hand began to twirl the dark brown prayer beads. Yes, Superman. Han Zhengqiao echoed with an exaggerated smile. Then he asked in confusion. Lu Cheng, why do I feel that you look a little different from on TV? How so? Lu Cheng looked at Yan Zheka with a smile, and found that she was just as confused as he was. It had only been 5 or 6 days since he last appeared on TV. Guogua was a short and delicate girl with a rather imposing face. She said in a low voice, "You're a little different. On TV, you're more, how do I put it? More flamboyant. You have a temperament that people don't dare to look at directly." Haha, I understand now. During an intense battle, I will definitely release my aura to oppress and affect the opponent's mind. When the match was over and I was interviewed, I hadn't completely calmed down. Lu Cheng suddenly understood. The me on TV was a battle form. So that's how it is. When you're free, you're like a forest. When you're in a battle, you're like a fire. Zhang Li nodded thoughtfully. They were the kind of people who didn't like martial arts. They would only watch highly watched matches that attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, even though there were many seniors and experts around them, they didn't notice some details. After the small talk, the atmosphere became relatively livelier. Ji Lingxi, Han Zhengqiao, and the others sat down and began to chat about various things. It was obvious that they wanted Lu Cheng to be the center of the conversation. Seeing that he wasn't interested, they didn't mention the prayer beads and ambergris. Instead, they talked about the gossip in the martial arts circle. Lu Cheng didn't care about what they were talking about. He didn't feel the slightest inferiority even if their collection was worth all his savings. Instead, he took it as an opportunity to broaden his horizons and listened quietly. He didn't mind. Time ticked by. Lu Cheng pressed on his phone, looked at the screen, and stood up with a smile. As time ticked, Lu Lingxi, Ji stood. He was surprised. His tone was normal, but there was an indisputable tone to it. Ji Lingxi stood up and asked in surprise, "So early?" Ever since he started practicing martial arts, he's been living like an old man. Yeah, so am I. Yan Zheka explained for her boyfriend with a smile, and thought of an excuse to get herself out of this situation. Zhang. Wei Sming, Cheng said. Yan Li Yan Cheng, let's go fishing and enjoy the breeze. Oh, there are a few underground fights in the international waters. With the existence of referees, the arena matches were more than exciting, but not exciting enough. In order to satisfy their own desires and needs to vent, some tycoons would privately organize underground arena matches in war-torn zones and on the high seas. Arena matches without referees. If they really fought like this, even if no one died, there would definitely be a scene of blood splattering everywhere and bones breaking. It would excite the bestial side of humans. Of course, the fighters who were willing to fight in challenge tournaments to make quick money were not very strong. If there was a Dan stage, 7th or 6th pin fighter, they would have a guarantor and a chance to repay the debt. No need. Lu Cheng looked at Yan Zheka and turned her down with a smile. Tomorrow he would stay at home with Ko and rub her tummy. Today was one of the days left out in the travel plan. Fine. I'll look for you next time. With your listening skill, I'm sure you can catch a lot of fish. Zhang Li didn't insist. He left the Ji family's old house with Han Zhengqiao and Guogua, and got into his SUV. He took off the dark brown prayer beads and put them on the gear shift. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "What do you think? What do you think of Lu Cheng?" "He's a gentle, friendly, and introverted person." Han Zhengqiao rubbed his eye bags and answered seriously. "But don't you think he has a strong aura? It's like he's telling us what to do, and we can only listen obediently." Guogua frowned and whispered, "Haha, that's normal. It's the confidence of a mighty one accumulated from victory after victory. My mom is the same. She doesn't have to get angry or speak loudly. As long as she makes a decision, I don't even dare to fart." Han Zhengqiao laughed at himself. Not to mention a heavenly son of the age. Yeah. Zhongli started the engine and started the car. "Anyway, whether Lu Cheng can reach physical invulnerability or not, I think he'll definitely become an inhuman." Han Zhengqiao added, "We're not strong and have no interest in martial arts. It's good to make more friends like him." "Yo, I didn't expect young Master Han, who loves wine, cars, and women, to say something like that," Guogua mocked. Han Zhengqiao usually behaved like a typical rich playboy. "This is called being vigilant in times of peace," he replied, clicking his tongue. Zhongli nodded in agreement and said slowly, "Since you have this understanding, it's not a waste of my advice. Why do you think Lingxi insisted on coming back today?" "Sisterly love. Isn't that so?" Guogua and Han Zhengqiao asked in surprise. Zhongli chuckled. "The Ji family is a typical martial arts family. Don't be fooled by the wealth and power of the outside world. Internally, strength is still the most important factor." Guogua interrupted him before he could finish. She played with her long wavy hair and said with a frown, "Uncle Ji's 4 siblings are very harmonious and close. That's because there are old masters and old ladies above them. Where there are people, there are conflicts. Where there are money and power, there are disputes. In order to have strong children to stabilize his foundation, Uncle Ji kept many lovers outside. Unfortunately, none of them turned out to be successful. He didn't dare to bring them home." Zhongli sighed. "Lingxi has shed countless tears because of this. Don't be fooled by her carefree attitude. In fact, she knows better than anyone else. She knows that she can't achieve anything in martial arts and doesn't want to fight for anything. She just wants to maintain her current status and lifestyle. Therefore, continuing to befriend Yan Zhika, who has a good relationship with her, is the most reasonable and practical choice. Especially when she has a really good boyfriend, the really good kind." Although Lu Cheng had been dealing with the heavenly sons of the age recently, which made it seem like there were many young fighters at this level, in fact there might not even be one in several provinces. At least among Zhang Li and Han Zhengqiao, only Lin Ke was slightly close to this level. In a situation where a high-ranked inhuman dance stage fighter could be considered as the upper class of a province, it was normal for the heavenly sons of the age who had a good chance of reaching physical invulnerability to be highly valued. "Brotherly." Han Zhengqiao was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but gasp. "You've hidden your strength well." He could see things so clearly. Zhongli sneered. "My family has a lot of people. If they were stupid, they would have been swallowed long ago. How could I be the young master?" Speaking of this, he sighed again. "I really envy Lu Cheng and the others now. They are strong and not afraid of scheming against each other. Anyway, I'm waiting for a chance to help him or be helped by him. Either way, it could improve the relationship between both parties." In the guest room of the Ji family's old house, Lu Cheng, who was under the nose of a physical invulnerability expert, didn't sneak into the bedroom. After washing up, he lay on the bed and received a call from his mother. After chatting for a while, Qi Feng said mysteriously, "Your brother has hit the jackpot recently." Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. Lu Yanwei really succeeded in starting his business? He didn't say anything about it recently. Erzi expanded his business to Xioshan. He asked your brother to help and even gave him shares. Qi Feng gossiped excitedly. She didn't feel jealous because her son was very successful after all. Others couldn't catch up to him easily. Lu Cheng was stunned and asked doubtfully, "Who's Erzi?" Qi Feng didn't know what to say. After a while she said, "He's a relative from Qingfu's hometown. He often comes to visit your grandpa and grandma." I remember. He's quite a nice guy. Lu Qing said perfunctorily. You have no taste. How could you ask your brother for help? Didn't you see how many things he has failed? Qi Feng insisted that Lu Yanwei didn't have the ability to start a business. It doesn't matter. It's not us who will suffer losses. Lu Qing laughed. That's true. Also, your dad got promoted recently. Fatigua put him in charge of the whole factory and even gave him shares. Chung, do you think it's because of you? You just won the national championship and Fatigua brought this up. What's that idiom? What's that? Qi Feng wasn't well educated. It's the icing on the cake. Lu Qing added on behalf of his mother. Fatigua is a nice guy. Didn't he help me in my hour of need? That's true. Anyway, if he really asks you for help, don't worry about us. If you can help, just do it. If not, just forget it. Qi Feng said with concern. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Qing answered with a smile. When the phone was hung up and the surroundings were quiet, he sighed with emotion. As he made his name in the national competition and gained the reputation of the favored fighter of the age, everything around him was changing. Maybe it had changed before, but it was definitely not as obvious as it was now. Without him saying anything, the fate of his relatives and friends had changed. It was only now that Lu Qing truly understood what it meant to have a change in status. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.